Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of two products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it that you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. I mean, how cool is that? It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
.134 laps at Kansas with just one caution to boot means the driver and all NORC members had to come out in battle, yet hold back and see who could save enough tire for the end of the race. 1 week removed from the second race of the NORC Season 13, however, Daniel Falkingham has taken the points lead, but Daytona winner Cody Miller shows clear pace in the early goings, not falling out of the conversation just yet. Welcome race fans to Pit Stop TV. Eric Brennan and Trey Shuttlesworth joined me on the mic this evening. We got Emerson Arden on our social media coverage. My name, of course, is Andrew Cardinale IV, and this is Pit Stop TV's live coverage of the NORC iRacing Series. To know you have many options to watch your sim racing action, we thank you for choosing Pit Stop TV and tuning in on Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter. Our eyes turned then to the newly repaved and rescanned Michigan International Speedway in virtual Brooklyn, Michigan. Eric, I know this is a different Brooklyn than you're accustomed to, but it's the same old D-shaped oval with 18 degrees of banking in the turns, yet drivers will be screaming for more grip all race long.
That's a great point, Andrew Cardinale IV. And hello, everybody, and thank you for having me on the broadcast again, as this is a series that I'm certainly enjoying over the last couple of weeks. And as Andrew mentioned, this is our next stop here. This Michigan International Speedway, the repave is something that for longtime stock car fans may have sucked a little bit of the fun out of what Michigan used to be, where you could run on the bottom of the racetrack all the way up to the wall across all 18 degrees of banking in turns 1 and 2 or 3 and 4. Now, that back straightaway, although relatively flat, it's long enough for you to perhaps utilize a little bit of a draft, especially in this style of Xfinity car. However, since the repave, it's kind of been a 1, maybe 1.5 groove racetrack. So, Trey Shuttlesworth, I'm kind of excited to see here if perhaps the latest iRacing build that came out just about a week or so ago will perhaps change the complexion of what we're used to seeing on this track on the sim.
No, that's definitely an excellent point that you bring up, because we've seen a lot of differences in terms of how tracks handle since that recent build, as you said, Eric. Whether it be last week at Kansas Speedway, we saw the bottom and middle grooves on the racetrack become more prevalent than the top side, whereas normally Kansas Speedway on the iRacing.com service is a track that is famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, for being a track where you are on the fence pretty consistently once you get into a run. So basically, I think we're all going to be learning as this race goes along, because I don't think any of us have actually seen a race with these cars since the most recent build.
No, it's certainly been a good little bit. And, if anything, I think this racetrack is going to change for the better. I think it's going to open up some more opportunities for drivers to utilize the full width of the Michigan International Speedway, which you can see here. It's rather wide. You've got a lot from white line to white wall, and in recent years, it just hasn't been used quite as much here on the iRacing sim. Of course, that bottom lane has been known to be really, really slick and pretty much a no-go zone, dead man's land or whatever. And even going to the wall, it just doesn't have the same speed. Now, in an Indy car, sometimes you can utilize more of this racetrack. We've seen that with IORL, but when you bring a big, heavy stock car here, it just is not the same. That said, we're starting to see these guys get these cars up to speed, seeing what these drivers might do through the course of this evening's race, and seeing how they're going to, try and fight back against their current points deficits, because it's just after 2 races so far, Eric, we're already seeing some of those deficits grow, even within the top 20. Now, when it comes down to the top 10 conversation, the 10 drivers that will lock themselves into the chase, they're relatively nice and tight, being it down to guys like David Schutt, Bobby Chaney on each side of the cut line, and they're a little ways back, 30 points already or more back for 10th and 11th place. And complete contrast to the other end of the top 10. Cody Miller, Tyler Justice, they're rather buttoned up within 5 points themselves of Daniel Falkingham with his race win coming last week at Kansas.
And there are so many names below that cut line right now that we would expect to see a little bit higher up. How about John Berry, 13th in the standings? He was somebody who was a contender to win at Daytona before getting caught up in an accident. I know half the field could say that as well, but he also ran very well last week. And don't forget, he was the runner-up in this championship, albeit in a different car. They ran the 87 Cup car 1 year ago, but Berry is someone who was going to methodically try to work his way up through the championship standings. But if I'm looking at a heavy hitter as a potential favorite tonight, I got to think about Tyler Justice. Reason being, in both races we've had so far here this season, he has come up short, but not by much. It was inches at Daytona to Cody Miller, and then, of course, with the tire strategy and the fact that he elected to pit when he did may have cost a little bit of time towards the latter stages on the eventual winner and point leader Daniel Falkingham, who got the job done at Kansas. So just a couple of drivers I'm going to be keeping my eye on here. One safe within the points zone, or the cut line, you should say, at this point in the season, albeit early, and another one who's on the outside looking in.
Yeah, that's a good point, Eric. And you could look at any of these drivers within the top 20 and make a case for them to go out there and put on a pretty decent show for themselves at Michigan tonight. It's relatively early into the season, and anyone really has the opportunity, if they have the pace, to go out there and pick up a big points haul. Especially early in the season, the more momentum you can build up, the better. But no, outside of the guys you guys have already mentioned, I'm also liking what I've seen from Tommy Gossett so far this season. Outside of the likes of, say, like Tyler Justice or Cody Miller, I believe he's the only driver outside of those two who has been in the top 10 every race so far this season. Actually, points leader Daniel Falkingham has, but he's definitely a driver who's been fairly consistent so far. Not sure on his pace so far tonight in practice, but I would have to imagine, just based off of the fact that Michigan is in some ways similar, to Kansas Speedway, he could definitely have a lot of pace tonight.
Drivers have now under 20 seconds of practice remaining. I like the drivers that you guys are bringing up, and I really like Tommy Gossett. He's pretty quietly in 4th place in the points, and that number 54 is looking very fast this season. He had a great run last week at Kansas, showed great speed and great patience at Daytona. Patience, I think, is more important of the two. Then you have guys like Zoltan Herzeg, tied for 5th place with Sean Williams, the only active driver in NORC who has won at Michigan, at least the only driver we'll see in this race that has won at Michigan in NORC iRacing Series competition. In fact, looking back at previous Michigan winners, the two names that come up a lot, as you might expect, are, of course, Marcus Richardson and Bobby Zelensky. And I also noted this is a racetrack that has been on the schedule for all aside from, I think, one season, and that was in Season 8. The only time that NORC has not run Michigan somewhere in their schedule. And, I mean, you've got names on there, of course, like Marcus Richardson, Bobby Zelensky. They make up all but 3 race wins here. Then Anthony Emery is the most recent winner here at Michigan. And aside from Sean Williams, the only other winner, and I saved this guy for last for a reason, the only other winner in NORC competition here at Michigan International Speedway is none other than Logan Clampett, now racing for William Byron Esports in the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series. So definitely some great company as far as Michigan winners. That said, we have a whole lot of unknowns going into this evening, especially with qualifying now up on your screen. Sean Powell putting himself on the top side on that out lap, and I think we'll see that pretty much across the board. These drivers are going to go up to the wall, and they're going to try it out in those first couple of corners because, of course, they want to see how that grip is, but also you want to spool the motor up. This is where the unknowns come in. And Sean Powell opting to go a little bit lower down on the racetrack, but Eric still not going all the way down to the yellow line. I still think that is a no-go zone.
And that's one of the interesting things about this racetrack here at the Michigan International Speedway is that the preferred lane really does seem to be about a lane or so up off the bottom. And that's what we're seeing these drivers currently kind of target their way for as they navigate their way through the corner, as Brett Picari is one of the fastest cars of the racetrack. And just as I say that, he loses quick time to Kirker. But you're seeing here 3 and 4, it's the same song, second verse, running up just above that first seam that is up above the yellow line that outlines the bottom side of the corner. And Picari's going to take it all the way to the flat here as he comes in the checkered flag to close out this lap. And that will do it for his attempted run here. As now we look at Tyler Justice, who is 3rd in points. And he's somebody who has been knocking on the door for victory lane. Tonight may be the night he breaks through, but a solid qualifying run is going to play a huge role in the potential of that happening.
And as he comes off of 4, it looks like he's actually going to concede. And he currently sits at the top of the board by about 0.03 of a second right now after a pretty strong first lap. But no, as you were saying, Eric, we're kind of seeing seems to be the preferred line, and I think that might create for a pretty intriguing racing product if you can make the lane right above that work, just because it seems like the guy on the outside line might be able to really crowd the car on the inside line out and then stall their momentum. So it could go a number of ways. The outside line could become more prevalent, or it could be a battle of the two lines and just making it work for your car's handling at that specific point in time of the run. We'll just have to see how things go along, as it's now Gossett to the top of the board. So we were talking about Gossett being fairly consistent yet quiet, and now he's here at the top of the board so far. Still 2 minutes to go.
Hayes Booth now on the speedway in the number 11 car, a new livery on this Ford Mustang, and he's going to run the top side. I believe this is a flying lap for Hayes Booth. I'm very surprised by the fact that he is running so high up and right on that outside wall, but the hope is that changing the grip levels in the pavement, basically, iRacing can open up this racetrack to multiple lines to be used. That's why we've seen the bottom side become so prevalent at racetracks like Kansas Speedway. Last week with NORC and a couple weeks back with the LTAC Cup Series, Daniel Falkingham now making his run through turns 3 and 4, and much to the opposite of Hayes Booth. First lap, Falkingham runs down low, and I'd imagine this 20 will go a whole lot faster. It's a matter of whether or not he can go faster on lap 2 or lap 1.
And as Falkingham comes to the line, how about that? Top of the charts, 39.181 for the Kansas winner and point leader, and Falkingham by 0.04 of a second. Look how tight that top five is, separated by less than 1/10 of a second. But you called the shot there, Andrew. He got that job done there now with less than 40 seconds to go now in this session. Handful of drivers have yet to lay down a quick time. We're watching Cole Freilich work his way back towards the pit area. He's provisionally in 18th spot is that of Freilich, but what a lap by Falkingham, who's riding that wave of momentum potentially to a provisional pole here.
As I look in timing and scoring, I actually don't see any drivers at a pace that they would be in a range of being able to log a qualifying lap on the racetrack. So I think that's going to do it, and that'll put Falkingham on the top of the board. But no, we're seeing pretty tight margins, and that should bode well for a fairly competitive race. For the most part, it's pretty tight throughout the top 15 or 20 qualifiers. And we will have to take a bit of a break here.
We'll step aside for just a moment before we run down your starting grid here at the Michigan International Speedway. Don't go anywhere. Just got to sort something out real quick. We'll be right back to you here at Pit Stop TV with coverage of race number 3 in NORC iRacing Series competition in Season 13.
Sound art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it sound art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas.
Welcome back to the Michigan International Speedway. Thanks for staying with us through that quick little break. And we are ready to roll down the starting grid. And Eric Brennan starting on pole. We saw it. And these two drivers, I think, certainly in the forefront of our minds so far. Daniel Falkingham on pole. Tommy Gossett right alongside. That's going to be a very interesting first row, front row coming to the green flag for 100 laps this evening. Chad Oxendine puts himself third on the starting grid. Tyler Justice in fourth. Fifth place, we've got Aiden Kirker in just his second start in the series, alongside Sean Powell, also in his second start in the series. So a lot of young guns, or I guess new guns, if you will, towards the start, or towards the front of the grid, along with Bobby Chaney inside the top 10. He's a NORC and SRA veteran. Hayes Booth, though, a rookie on his outside, starting in 8th, and to round out the top 10, they got guys like Howie Briss and Jared Darling.
Now we'll take a look at the second batch of top 10 drivers. John Berry trying to get up above the cut line here tonight at Michigan, and Brett Picari in the 35 is going to line up in 12th spot outside of row number 6. 13th is where you're going to find Sean Williams, one of the former winners at this track in NORC competition, and Spencer Ray in the 6th will start outside of row number 7 in 14th spot. 15th is where you'll find Tyrell Baker, who says he wants a strong run tonight. He'll be in car 25 in 15th spot. The 42 of Elijah Grazia will start on the outside in 16th. 17th, Josh Robin of the 8 after a strong run at Daytona. Cole Freilich, who we saw set the 18th fastest lap time. He will start outside of row 9. And rounding out your top 20 tonight is going to be Dylan Hervatten in the 19 and Michael Keithley in the 53.
We look beyond the first 10 rows, and we'll look at the last two qualifiers first. It's going to be Zach Lindgren, accompanied by Sheldon Lockie in the 22nd position. And now we're going to look at drivers who did not set a time in qualifying tonight, including Will Klein and Aaron Smith, who will make up row 12. They will be followed by, it'll be David Shutt and Zoltan Herzeg, both drivers who have shown a lot of pace so far this season. Cody Miller, your Daytona winner, will be joined by Tom Mercier in the 27th and 28th positions, respectively. And then rounding out your top 30 is going to be Spencer Owens and Scott Shire.
Starting 31st, it's Patrick Colby in the 9, Dylan Patterson to his outside in 32nd. 33rd starting position, it's Taylor Frey in the 21. Matt Hummel, newly outside the top 20 in points, will start from the 34th position. And that does it. 34 cars this evening ready to go racing again at 100 laps. That's 200 miles the distance here at the Michigan International Speedway. And of course, it would not be a start to a NORC event without bringing in the one, the only TCB. Buddy, take it away.
All right, boys, here we are here at Michigan. Make sure you make your manufacturers happy. Can I get a good old manufactured?
Through turns 1 and 2, spread out high, wide, and handsome throughout the Michigan International Speedway pavement. 3 wide out of the second corner, and they are going at it. Tyler Justice through the center, trying to fight to the inside of Chad Oxendine, and they're still all buckled up in behind.
You can see the effects of the draft doing their job on the back straightaway, allowing this field to stay tight as it looks as though Justice nearly slid up into the left rear quarter panel of Oxendine in that battle for second. Still 3 wide mid-pack, but lap 1's going to go to Daniel Falkingham. Oxendine elects to get some clean air on the nose of that 66 as he approaches turn 1, and the fight for the lead will now go single file throughout the first 4, but there's still 3 wide mid-pack.
If you didn't know any better, you think we might be working with the current NASCAR Cup Series package. It's just pure plate racing. We do have an accident near the back of the field, it looks like, and it will be our first caution of the evening. At least a couple of cars involved. Not sure if there's critical damage quite yet, as we do see Aaron Smith and others pulling away from the incident.
Looks like Josh Robin, Patrick Colby going to be the source of this incident. We may not actually have footage then of the start of all of this because of how far back these guys were, unfortunately, in the field. We will, though, take a look back and see what happens to halt our progress for the first time this evening from the Michigan International Speedway. And again, Patrick Colby, Josh Robin, the 8 and the 9 in this one. Josh Robin in the 8, Patrick Colby in the 9. Waiting to see if we do have footage of this incident as the field rolls by down the front stretch. It's going to happen out of turn number 2, and the field is going to spread out to try and get on by. And we're waiting to see if we have anything from either one of these drivers, and here we go. It looks like Will Klein, possibly with contact with Sean Williams, just forces the 8 into the wall. Keithley gets a piece, and we saw some more involved.
Yeah, that was a product of some of that style of racing that Trey Shuttlesworth was just talking about, just really tight there at the front of the field. And Will Klein's a driver who we all expect to be running up towards the front of the field. And he was trying to go for a hole that was there, but Sean Williams slid up just a little bit and caught Will Klein, and that's what sent him up into Josh Robin, who Robin's one and only start this season prior to tonight was, in fact, at Daytona, where he ran very well, picked up a bonus point there, as a matter of fact, and thought he would be a threat to win here tonight. Still may be, depending on how much damage is there, but here comes Klein up the middle, and Williams is going to hit check him up into Robbins. Looks as though Klein's going to be able to get away with not too much damage on the back end of that car, but you see the carnage behind as Spencer Ray all the way down to the flat. Also, you saw Cody Miller in a Toyota Supra having to dodge that crash as well, as this wreck comes very early in the going in this race, and it will force these drivers to rethink the nature which they were running in such tight proximity this early.
Yeah, especially when you do consider that this isn't your conventional B-Fix race, which might only be 40 laps, a little bit less than 100 miles at Michigan International Speedway. This time we'll ride on board with Elijah Gracia, but it did seem like there were a couple of guys that took critical hits to the engine area of the vehicle, such as Josh Robin. For the likes of, say, Gracia, it looked like the only contact he received might have been in the left rear quarter panel, so he might be suffering some type of aerodynamic damage, which isn't going to help him a lot on the straightaways, but it's nowhere near as bad as critical engine damage.
We'll take one more look at this incident, this from the perspective of Zach Lindgren, who I believe is going to be the driver that narrowly gets on by the 42, painted up like Tony Stewart's old Chevrolet Impala of Elijah Gracia. And he's going to be on the outside line. That's where you see the 42 got that left side impact. We were just on board with him. Now, with Zach Lindgren, I noticed he's going to get taken out by, it looks like, the 6 of Spencer Ray as he came down the racetrack in his spin. And I'm just wondering, it looks like he gets some damage, but gets away okay. Unfortunately, at a place like Michigan, that is certainly going to impact his race. And I noticed him just barely getting caught up towards the end of that incident, and unfortunately going to likely impact the rest of his race. And that little bit of damage for some of those drivers, it might not look like a whole lot. And if we were at a short track like next week with North Wilkesboro, rather, truthfully, it wouldn't be much. But at a place like Michigan, where aerodynamics are everything, I'm just not so sure. And honestly, it really could impact these guys. I mentioned North Wilkesboro next week. Of course, we've still got a whole lot of racing here at Michigan, but do tune in next week as we go to, well, I mean, quite simply the racetrack to go to in North Carolina when it was open, and hopefully maybe open in the future. We'll see. But it is going to be a marquee race, I think, this season in Nork.
Yeah, that's an event that I've already penciled in on my calendar to look forward to because of the unique design of that racetrack. We first got to see it when NASCAR had the Pro Invitational event on TV a year ago at the beginning of the pandemic, but I'm more interested to see how this field of talented, competitive North drivers tackles that very tough and unique short track 1 week from tonight. But first, they got to survive the remaining 95 laps here at Michigan, and for Kansas winner Daniel Falkingham, he's trying to pick up right where he left off last week. He's currently led the first opening 5 circuits of this race. We come back for green, but Chad Oxendine's right there, Tyler Justice as well, and now there's a couple of names that are at the back of the field who were caught up in that crash. We're going to see if they can work their way forward on the restart.
And as we watch this to see this first restart in the night, I think the question does become, do we see Daniel Falkingham be able to have both the short run speed that we've already seen over just a lap and a half, and can he back that up with long run pace over the course of a potential long run? I'm assuming we'll get it. We'll just have to see how things go over the next 95 laps here at Michigan.
To complete lap number 5, we take a restart, and very quickly, Falkingham gets on the loud pedal, clears Oxendine, and will race down to turn number 1 on the first restart of the evening. The teammates side by side in row number 2, Justice and Powell, and Tyler Justice deep to the inside of the 66 car, almost gets into Oxendine a little bit. Powell gonna dip in behind the 7 car and try and work something out on the bottom side.
We mentioned in our lead-in that one of the hungriest drivers in the field is the driver of that car, number 7, and Tyler Justice. He is somebody who has come up short by the narrowest of margins to kick off this season. He wants victory. He's happy with the strong start to the season, gave us 2 very humble interviews after each of those races, but he's hunting the bottom of the racetrack, looking for help if he can get it from Powell and company as he comes to the line in second spot in the tire tracks of Falkingham. Now going to get some clean air on the left front of that race car and try to see if he can size up that 20 for the lead.
We come down the long back straightaway at Michigan International Speedway. Justice was using a slightly lower line through the middle of the corner, and it looks like it's going to compromise his exit, as currently Oxendine is quite close to the rear of his vehicle, on board with Gossett, who is currently rounding out the top 5 here on the racetrack and coming to the completion of lap 7, already quite a quick pace here at Michigan.
To complete lap number 7, still a 20 car out front. We see the telemetry on the bottom right there of Gossett, and he's getting to the top end of gear number 4 is Howie Briscoe's purple. Almost 180 miles an hour. I think it was over 180 before he lifted, certainly. These guys are moving down to turn number 1. Not quite the 205, 212 sometimes that we'd see from the NASCAR Cup cars. And oh my gosh, a big crash. Hervaten's the center of it.
Hervaten, the first car to go around to the back straightaway, and he got turned in front of the field, and there's some heavy damage to a couple of cars, Hervaten being one of them. That's number 19, the Pennsylvania driver, one of the supers in the field, getting by. I also believe I saw the 53 sustain some damage as well. And I'll tell you what, Trey Shuttlesworth, when you're facing the wall at a 90-degree angle off of turn number 2 on the back straightaway, and the whole field is coming on you, it's going to be hard for everybody to miss you. And Hervaten, who was running up in what looked to be the top 20, trying to stay off of Freilich here, and trouble ensued out of 2.
Big hit.
That is quite the critical hit there, and I would assume that's going to mark the end of his evening, unfortunately, for the Pennsylvania driver. And yeah, there might have been a little bit of contact, but the car was also quite loose off the exit of the corner. We'll have to see with additional perspectives here.
This is from the rear bumper cover of the number 19 of Hervaten. He was in behind Freilich, and he's going to lose it all on his own, but I want to show that there's no contact from Williams or anything like that. If anything, it would have been all the air. Just getting this 19 car loose, you can see, just gets loose. Just starts having to save the race car, pounds the right side of Williams, and then Keithley nowhere to go. Thankfully, Spencer Ray and Moore take evasive action from behind, but oh my. Big contact here on just what was that, the 8th lap?
Yeah, I believe the other car that took significant damage, it was Michael Keithley in the 53, as you're on board with Sean Williams now. Unfortunately for Williams, even though there was no foul in this incident whatsoever, as you mentioned, Andrew, this would be 2 for 2 as far as him sustaining some type of contact in both of our early race cautions prior to lap 10. It's going to get a good opportunity here on the exit. You see right there, that car starts to break free, and here's Keithley, who's going to have nowhere to go.
And that is purely the worst kind of thing that can happen at this racetrack, thinking that, or rather just the scenario where you have no idea whether you should dart to the right or the left because you quite simply cannot see in front of you. And where that contact was, I think that's also going to mark the end of the evening for him.
Vayton Keithley, a lot of damage. Sean Williams gets a lot of right side damage as well. The unfortunate thing for these drivers especially is that it's not like the LTAC Cup Series where they get a fast fix and get to go back out there. They get that one mulligan. No, they are done. If they sustain too much damage, they quite simply may be done for the day or may just be done for the next few laps until they can get that damage repaired. And even so, the car will never be quite like it was. You see a lot of damaged race cars already towards the back end of the field, and we'll see how they are able to adjust throughout the day to try and battle that damage. Something we talked about last week at Kansas, though, Eric, is the difference in aero packages. We have this graphic still, and you can see how little they are working with in terms of aero devices this evening at Michigan International Speedway. While it kind of is a super speedway here at Michigan, it is not a super speedway that warrants the Daytona Talladega package, so it does not get the narrower but taller spoiler. It does not get the longer, or I guess larger splitter, if you will, and it does not get that skirt along the rear fascia. It simply gets the package on the right, the very, very small lip of a splitter on the bottom end of the front ends of these race cars, and it just gets that tiny little spoiler along the back.
Yeah, so when we just saw that incident that involved Sean Williams as well as the number 19 of Dylan Hervaten, that was a perfect example because Williams' nose, the big bulky nose of his Toyota Supra, kind of swiped across that very narrow lip of a rear spoiler you see on the bottom right of this graphic, and it just disrupted the air as Hervaten ended up coming up in front of Sean Williams' car, and that's the reason why. If that type of move may have been made at a Daytona or Talladega, perhaps they would have gotten away with it, but Hervaten could not hang on, despite the fact that they never touched to trigger that crash. So that's just some of the differences that you will see, especially when we get a little bit further down the road to the dual races at Talladega in June.
Yeah, all I could do, Eric, is back up your point. Very simply, if you're a fan of old school conventional stock cars, cars that have a lot of power and not a lot of downforce, you have come to the right place. And yeah, I'm just purely excited that we have these cars on tap with the NORC iRacing series, and it's the first series, I believe, on Pit Stop TV that's actually been able to utilize the B car, or the Xfinity Series car, if you will.
First time in a long time we had these race cars on the channel. Very happy to do so here at the NORC iRacing series. Getting ready to go for lap number 12 then of 100. This is the slowest start we've had to a speedway race so far in just 2 goes on speedways. NORC gets back green flag down the front stretch. Falkingham, another great restart, gets launched away from the field. This time, Justice on the outside. Oxendine gonna ship it up the inside.
Oxendine trying to make that bottom lane, or in some cases, he's up a little bit further in the preferred spot. As you see Tommy Gossett there sliding a little bit up in line. He'll be 4th in line on the top side behind that of Sean Powell, which is going to allow Justice to get back up in the 2nd spot, with Oxendine trying to fend off Powell up top in what is now a side-by-side race for 3rd as they come off turn 4.
We come off of turn 4, still side by side for the top 3 positions, and it is quite the hornet's nest from behind. We're going to see TCB go 3 wide through the middle, rounding out the back, or rather, yeah, he's running in about the 7th or the 8th position right now. Not quite the position you want to be in if you want to minimize risk this early in the race, but sometimes early into a run, I think you do have to take risks in order to be able to make up track's position, as he was just able to do.
That was a beautiful pass on not 1 but 2 cars. He goes by Bobby Chaney, was on the bottom, and Aiden Kirker on the top side. I like what I'm seeing from the 17 this evening. Kirker off to a great start. He is losing a little bit of time off of this restart, but a couple of great showings these last couple of weeks here in his first couple of starts in the NORC iRacing series. Now battling with Jared Darling down the front stretch here at Michigan, and he will go back off into turn number 1 and see what he can do on the outside of the 1 machine. Further up, there's still about as they were. In fact, no changes up ahead of these guys. They're single file to the first 6 positions, and the first battle is that of Kirker and Darling.
Yeah, Darling and Kirker continue their side-by-side battle with John Berry trying to push Jared Darling clear of that 17 by the time they get to turn number 3, but he's unable to slide up just yet. Maybe he could cement the pass. He's going to try to come across the bow of Kirker. He's got the pass made. That's going to move Darling up into sole possession of 7th. Well, now John Berry's going to look for a little bit of drafting help as well in the bottom to see if he can climb further up towards the top 5.
And we're actually going to see Barry be incredibly aggressive, dart down to below the apron on the front straightaway. It actually will get the job done as we come off the exit of 2, and now it's going to be up to him to compromise with that lack of momentum he has from using the inside line. He's still going to be side-by-side with Kirker onto the entry, but as we look forward, the battle has heated up for the lead. Justice looking to the inside of Folkingham, near contact through the middle of the corner.
Very, very close between those two Chevrolet Camaros. On board with Powell. He's going to get a great run out of turn 4. I would imagine he'll go with Tyler Justice if he can get there, try and help his teammate to the bottom side of turn 1. Ends up just kind of staying, working behind them, not really doing anything with that battle up ahead as Justice takes over the race lead, clears the 20 in turns 1 and 2. Lead change at the front.
Tyler Justice to the point, but for how long? Folkingham looked like he tried to lift a little early there. Look at him. You could read that Camaro logo right into your living room as they hit the end of the back straightaway. And now Powell's going to peek up top. Justice is going to come around to lead this lap. And the driver who, as we mentioned, has been a bridesmaid twice already this season, now trying to fend off Folkingham, who will commit to the bottom and will come to the line with the lead. Powell and Oxendine now going side by side for 3rd, as we still got incredible racing all throughout the top 10, even in the early going of this race. Oxendine slides up the hill. He's got Tommy Gossett up top for 4th.
And Gossett so far tonight has back up the consistent performance he's had in the first 2 rounds and the consistent performance he's had in qualifying. Currently in the 4th position, a very impressive job, and he's getting a fair amount of screen time tonight, I do have to say. Riding on board with Jared Darling, who he's had a bit of a mixed start to the season, but he's shown a fair amount of pace, and it's starting to pay off tonight, running just outside of the top 5 as we come to the completion of lap 17.
Gossett and Powell exited turn 4 side by side, but Powell had the top side and used that momentum to his advantage. Even if the top doesn't quite open up in terms of single car speed, it's certainly going to be where you want to defend from and use that momentum down these long straightaways. Even if the front stretch isn't necessarily straight, it acts the same as a straightaway, even with that banking. So Eric, the top side going to be important all night long, even if it doesn't have single car speed. Oxendine all over the back end of the Super running P4, and I'm still just so impressed with the speed out of Tommy Gossett so far this season. He's sticking it to some of the best in this car.
He's also had, contact there between TCV and Jared Darling. They just bounced doors. I was about to compliment the livery that Tommy Gossett is running here tonight, or paint scheme, as we say in the stock car world. As you see, Sean Powell now looking for 2nd spot. Whoa, that was close. He almost got into the side of Folkingham. He's going to have to check up, but Gossett's going to fill the hole on the outside.
We come off the back straightaway, and I believe we are going to be looking 3 wide for the last spot on the podium right now. Going into 3, not a lot of give or take between any of these 3. Going to the inside, it's going to be Oxendine. He's not quite going to be clear. I unfortunately think he's not quite going to have the momentum to pull off the maneuver, and there's still going to be 3 by 3 coming to the start-finish line.
Oxendine finally bends and falls back in behind these two as they battle. Here comes TCB, the best run of the season so far for this 25 car, down to the bottom side, and he tries to find something on the inside of Oxendine, not just yet. He'll fall back into 6th, and they're still battling in all kinds of droves behind. This is insane stuff. This is great racing so far.
Yeah, the level of aggression has been up there. And just as we say that, we got to flash up to the front of the pack because here comes Folkingham trying to get the lead back from Justice. Now, that's going to propel that 3rd, 4th, 5th, and 6th place car as Folkingham completes the slider to get the lead. That's going to propel everybody up towards the top of the running order here as it is Folkingham back to P1 at the stripe. He'll lead that charge down to turn number 1 with Justice looking back down to the bottom. This is very similar to what we saw at Daytona, Trey, where everybody is fighting very hard for position, and it appears as though that we are inches away from disaster throughout this top 10 as Jared Darling clips the wall.
several dipping down below the white line on the back straightaway. It looks like everyone's going to get away. Some with some
Oh, that's not going to work! Oh, Hayes Booth, Howie Briss, hard in the wall.
And that, in the least, it's going to mark the end of a competitive run for both of those drivers. And if I'd have to guess, Booth is someone that's likely going to have a lot of engine damage. And that's just what's naturally going to happen when you're racing this aggressively. Sometimes things will go awry for the likes of Booth. It's been a very poor start to the season for him, I do have to say.
All of that sparked by Jared Darling tagging the outside wall. I won't say tagging, slamming the outside wall out of turn number 2 the last time through. He has fallen all the way down to 15th position here. He is in behind Dylan Patterson, who's got the wrong number on his race car. His first start of the season. And he scored as the 03, but is visually the 8 car just in front of Darling there. And I'm sure he'll have that sorted out for North Wilkesboro in 1 week's time. Spencer Owens, though, battling here with the Ford Mustang of Bobby Cheney. They are battling for about the 12th spot on the racetrack as Aiden Kirker has fallen back here in behind Cole Freilich. Will Klein as well now inside the top 10. John Barry, David Schutt. A lot of the normal names starting to work their way forward.
Yeah, and all that shuffling on the back straightaways. Tommy Gossett now catches the wall at a 2, just how Jared Darling did a couple laps ago, and that's going to force the field to scatter, and he's going to lose 1 spot, at least for now, to Sean Powell, with Chad Oxendine trying to look for a way by as well. But all that shuffling and starting to see some of these names crack the top 10 is by virtue of some of these mistakes that we're seeing happen off turn number 2, and that's becoming a bit of a regular occurrence here so far in this race as we approach the quarter distance mark, with still some heavy racing going on just outside the top 10. We drop back to this fight for position with Cole Freilich, trying to hold on to that position for now in 1.
And we've been incredibly lucky not to get a caution after a couple of incidents that just haven't seen a car spin around so far. But as you said, backtracking a little bit, we are seeing some of the series' best talent so far. Maybe not the guys that have been running up front the first couple of rounds, but Kirker and Freilich have been drivers that have shown to have a lot of pace. And drivers that will be aggressive sometimes as they need to, especially Freilich. It doesn't seem to matter the series on Pits.tv. He definitely seems to get on air quite a bit, even if he's not always in that lead spot, as we do come off of turn 4. And as you said, Eric, we're 1 lap away from the quarter lap mark, I believe, or the quarter wave mark.
Lap 25 now of 100. Patterson in behind. Oh my! Patterson almost drove through the back end of Owens there as he checked up for Bobby Cheney into turn 1. They're side by side ahead as well. I believe that is going to be Tommy Gossett losing more time as David Schutt and Chad Oxendine start to battle. That for the 6th position. No, the 5th position actually for Oxendine to try and hang on to as John Barry quickly goes on by TCB. That one is for 7th.
Yeah, and I would say that Chad Oxendine has been able to show a lot of speed here tonight. He just appears to be getting caught out, perhaps in some of the most precarious positions. He was the first car behind Tommy Gossett when he got up into the wall, and that forced him to check up big time. He's got a huge push coming down the front straightaway by David Schutt, who wants to give him enough momentum to propel him perhaps past Tommy Gossett. And that's going to move Schutt up the racetrack as Sean Barry has a peak. And I'm very impressed with Tyrell Baker tonight. We had a chance to listen in to TCB before the race started and his traditional send-off for these drivers. And he expressed that his agenda tonight is to lay down a pretty solid result, keep the car in one piece, but put up a good number after he's been kind of on the opposite end of some fortune and luck so far this season. Trying to cash in here tonight at Michigan. He's made some very nifty passes, and he's currently sticking to the top lane while running 8th.
Just to talk a little bit more about TCB, I think the important thing that he's been able to do that some of his competitors haven't been able to do through the first 26 or 27 laps is keep his car relatively clean, even if he's been relatively close to a few of these incidents so far, and he's still in the top 10. You know, without a doubt, well, can't say that necessarily because we saw only 1 caution at Kansas last week, but there's a pretty good chance of a caution happening, so he's in the position to, in certain scenarios, make a run for the race win here, and maybe he has a long run pace to be able to do it without that caution.
Out of turn number 4, Tommy Gossett still slowing and heading the wrong direction. Oxendine going to take it 3 wide. There were John Barry on the bottom side. David Schutt just barely clear, shuts the door on Tommy Gossett. I feel like that pun's we made a lot this season. Oxendine tries to slide up in front of the 54, can't quite do it. And the 74 then tries to stay to the inside of Gossett and barely stays there, but the run going to help Tommy clear the 74 once more. And John Barry still going to have to do some work. Chad Oxendine as well. These guys are finding it pretty tough to get on by the very Ryan Newman-like Tommy Gossett this evening.
Very, very impressed so far tonight with just how willing these drivers are to be as far as sending it off into the corner and trying to pull off what could be described as a bit of a slide job to make sure that they clear the driver they're looking to get by. That way they can get back up at the preferred line and keep the momentum rolling. I believe that's something that we're trying to watch Spencer Owen accomplish here on Bobby Chaney off at 2. Owen on the bottom in the 12, Chaney up top in the 24. Two drivers who have shown speed so far this season, but have yet to been able to put together solid results. That's another good side-by-side battle we've got going on for 11th spot. And here comes Dylan Patterson down to the inside. He's going to try to take advantage of Chaney getting kicked up into the dirt, and this race will continue off for it back to the line.
And perhaps Patterson was doing a good job of saving his tires earlier in the run, because he really made excellent use of the inside line there. Normally, when we see guys utilize the inside line, they don't quite have the momentum that he had coming off of the exit of the corner, but he's going to get by, it would have been Bobby Chaney with relative ease, and now he's going to continue to storm up, only standing a couple spots outside of the top 10 now.
Meanwhile, Sheldon Lockie suddenly in this fight. He had a great run at Daytona. I don't believe I saw him in the field last week at Kansas, and as a result, he dropped way through the standings. Now is in the 15th position, battling with Cole Freilich just ahead, as well as Bobby Chaney, who's starting to head the wrong direction. That 24 seems may have burned his stuff off, and the Melon Man 69 Ford Mustang moving through the field. There's a few more battles further back in this field. Spencer Ray, Zoltan Hergzeg going at it. This for the 17th position, it looks like. But up front, things very, very calm with Daniel Falkingham starting to eke out the slightest of margins here, Eric. Only a couple of tenths over Tyler Justice right now. But boy, they are starting to fall just the smallest little bit. Sean Powell still in tow. But this isn't the side-by-side battle we saw earlier on in this run. I think these guys realize they've got to get in for the long haul.
And I think the window of opportunity that we're going to open up by this field starting to stretch out is going to be an increase in aggression for a potential upcoming restart. Now, these guys proved at Kansas last week that cautions are not always guaranteed when it comes to NORC competition. But being that we do have a lot of laps under our legs so far this run, since the last caution that happened on about lap 8, it looks as though this is kind of proving the importance of track position and the need to take advantage of restarts when everybody's kind of all over each other on this 2-mile oval. Falkingham, Justice Powell, your top 3 for the time being. David Schutt, who was one of the biggest movers in points, leapfrogged 15 spots to get up in the top 10 after some misfortune at Daytona and a strong run at Kansas 1 week ago with a top 5 finish. He is somebody who is continuing to improve on his results as the season unfolds. And John Berry battling side-by-side with Chad Oxendine right now to try to crack the top 5. We told you Berry would be somebody to watch, currently outside looking in this early in the season in the championship standings. And he has climbed his way from 11th spot now to 5th.
Yeah, it didn't seem to matter whether it's been the points racing or some of the non-points events, such as the NORC Toyota 500. It just seemed like John Berry's had a lot of misfortune so far this season. So while we're only a third of the way through tonight, it's very nice to see the series owner having a pretty consistent run so far, and he's had to do a lot of work to get up there. But yeah, just to talk a little bit more about what you were saying with track position being important at Michigan, I think part of the reason of why that's important at this racetrack is just because tires can wear quite a bit when you go for those aggressive maneuvers. They seem to wear quite a bit when you try to make passes happen on the inside, and oftentimes that's just the way you have to go, even if it's not preferred because of how much of a lack of momentum you'll have when you go to the inside line.
John Berry now coming up on this lap traffic. He'll go straight to the inside of Patrick Colby and will keep on racing. The very injured number 9 out of the first caution, just, well, simply off pace. And you can see why as all these front drivers go on by. There's a battle here from the 8th position with Aiden Kirker and Spencer Owens. Now, something these drivers are battling with this evening is this. The air temp is not all that hot. It's only about 77 degrees. But the track temp is a little ways up there. Is actually Tommy Gossett's exiting the pit lane. We completely missed that. I think that's very, very early for a scheduled stop, but he may be trying an undercut here.
And we saw that strategy play out in a big way at Kansas, even on an oval, even on a track that's considered intermediate, that level of pitch strategy. And look at the difference here. It's almost like Tommy Gossett just hit the nitro button. He is ripping his way by the field And keep in mind, he did sustain some damage with the contact with the wall off turn 2 about 10 or so laps ago. But that's the difference that tires apparently are going to make here. Gossett may try to get on up there and get his lap back here the old-fashioned way. And look at the difference he's making on speeds. The field may have to take notice of this, even though we are not yet close to the actual point in the race where you may want to consider to stretch the fuel window all the way until the tank is dry.
Yeah, as you said, Eric, these overtakes are just purely effortless as we actually see a lead change as Gossett continues to make his way to try to get out of that lucky dog position. Side by side, coming off at turn 4, coming to the front straightaway here. It's going to be quite the drag race to the start-finish line. If that were the finish, it would have gone to Daniel Folkingham and only by 0.03 of a second. So I think we're seeing a bit of a closer fight than what we saw at Kansas. And Kansas was pretty close despite the fact that Folkingham, quite frankly, led most of the race.
Here comes Gossett to the inside of Powell as the leaders stay locked side by side. Where is Tommy Gossett going to go? Hopefully he waits and lets these guys figure this out, but I'm very happy he lifted. Now he's going to drive to the inside. Glad he made that work. My heart stopped a little bit there for Daniel Folkingham and Tyler Justice. Man, I'm glad that went smoothly, but this is not over. Lap 37, completing it here across the stripe of 100, and these guys are in lockstep formation, Eric. I don't know how this one's going to end.
Well, we just saw the benefits for the undercut there, but Folkingham slides up the racetrack. Justice also tries to keep equidistance between himself and the car down to the bottom. Sean Powell is going to potentially dictate who's able to take this lead away. And look at Folkingham trying to exercise a bit of the side draft there. That's dodgy. He fits right between the two teammates as he slices in front of Powell and Justice to cement second spot. That could have been disastrous there if he had misjudged that by a few inches either way.
Coming off at turn 4 this time, yeah, you do have to start to consider whether or not when pit stops are going to come into factor for these guys. I think we'd have to assume that Tommy Gossett thinks he can make it to the end on just, well, it would be one more stop from here if you divide it into about thirds, which is what he did. But these guys must be trying to push it all the way to the end of the race. But if you look beyond the top 3, they have about a second of clearance back to David Schutt. So right now, it's quite the story that we're getting to tell between what is our podium right now.
And Schutt's only going to close as these guys battle so close still at the 7 and 20. This is, I think, the greatest view of how close these guys are getting in the corners. As that time, Tyler Justice sliding a bit and is easily going to give that lead up to Daniel Folkingham. What are these two Phase 2 Motorsports drivers going to do to turn 1? They're tandeming down the front stretch. Powell thinking about the inside, but lifts a little bit and lets Tyler go to work.
Yeah, that time Tyler had no choice but to relinquish the lead. It looks like Folkingham had a bit of a bobble there that time off of 2, but he's able to keep his foot in it and pull out to a bit of an advantage. And you see Schutt and Berry off into the distance as they continue to retain the top 5 positions for now as we inch closer to the halfway point in this race, with Justice getting a good run there at the preferred line again. And you got to tip your cap to Sean Powell, as it looks as though Powell's going to duck for pit road. He thinks this is his chance. He's carrying a lot of speed into the pit lane, and hopefully he got that thing slowed down in time to meet the pit road speed requirements. But one of the first of the front runners, aside from Tommy Gossett, is on the pit lane, and he's not alone.
Yep, that's going to be the 03 of Patterson, and not only is he going to spin around trying to get into his pit box, he's going to make some contact with that inside concrete barrier, and the seconds just continue to tick away. Looks like the damage is not critical for Patterson, but that's probably going to knock him out of contention if we don't get another caution flag here. So that's about 40% of the way through the race where we see our first pit stop, which would put a fuel window, I'd have to assume, probably about 45 laps, if I would have to imagine, just based off of seeing how many guys are coming down to the pit road at this point in time. So I'd have to imagine one more pit stop after this will get us to the end of the race. And now we're going to see our runner-up, Tyler Justice, coming down to the pit lane. He led a couple of laps, and now here's the moment where he might be able to get a little bit of clean air on an undercut.
Remember, we had those first couple of cautions to change the whole pit strategy up this evening, and that has really lengthened these runs out a little bit. Here's a nice little battle as they go down the back stretch, waiting for some of these drivers to pit. Chad Oxendine still battling here with John Berry, though David Schutt has gone on by both of them. They'll fight into 3 and 4. Oxendine comes out on the top side of this latest scrap between these two. Who's going to pit first? A lot of them pit this time by. In fact, even Falkingham stays out. Still waiting for more drivers to come in. And all the way back here through the top 10, it looks like Frey is going to come in, but he's in 12th. So the top 10 stay out that time as the 21 is going to pit.
And I think this is going to be a huge benefit to one of the first cars that came down. I mean, we're going to see where Tommy Gosson cycles through when all's said and done. Granted, everybody else is going to have much fresher tires when everything cycles through. But you got to wonder where Sean Powell is going to fall when all this is done, because we saw how quick new tires are and how big of a lead he may end up having here once the front runners elect to come down. We're on board with John Berry now, coming through for 3 and 4. And again, no movement, at least by some of these front runners, at least none of the drivers that we have in the front 4 for the time being, electing to come down for stops as Berry remains in the tire tracks of Oxendine.
Yeah, this is probably the first opportunity that we've really gotten a little bit of a chance to breathe, just because the action has been so tight. And yet, as I say this, it's only a couple of tenths separating these fights for what are currently the 2nd, 3rd, and 4th positions on the racetrack. Yeah, very impressive to see these guys really retain the grip in their tires so far. It doesn't seem like they're having too many issues in terms of a car that's incredibly difficult to navigate. Backtracking, or rather going forward to Daniel Folkingham, he's going to continue to stay out yet another lap. This will be 45 laps that he will be out on one take of fuel, of course with a couple of caution flags mixed in.
Caution! We've got trouble somewhere on the speedway. Is it possibly it's not Howie Briss? Oh, I've got no clue where this is going to come out. We're waiting on scoring to try and show me something. Chad Oxendine had dipped into the pit lane. That's going to be very interesting with the 66 and where he's going to cycle into things. He misses his box. Oh boy, this changes everything.
Yeah, and this is going to certainly be very interesting depending on if he's able to get out in time before the field comes back around. And again, we're going to have to kind of patiently wait for this to shuffle through. Anytime you watch one of the big league stock car series and they have a caution come out during a round of green flag pit stops, you kind of have to wait for timing and scoring to cycle things out. But it appears we may have found perhaps one of the culprits that has slowed this field for, according to my notes, is the 3rd time tonight. And this is coming down the front straightaway.
I checked replay on my end a little bit ago. I did see Aiden Kirker on the inside apron off of turn 4 on that little slab of pavement just before the pit entry, and it looked like he was pulling away from the scene of an accident. So we'll backtrack a little bit, get to see what led up to this incident from his perspective. Currently in a fight in what I assume would have been the mid-pack. I don't think he was a driver that had pit up to this point in time.
Zoltan Herzeg, Spencer Owens battling up ahead. Tom Mercier battling with these guys. Could this be where it happens? Mercier, Cheney sandwiching the 17. Oh boy. Okay, guys. I wonder if that's a miscommunication, a miscue there for maybe Aiden Kirker to try and pit and Tom Mercier trying to go up the inside. Maybe not where you want to pass with new tires during a pit cycle.
Yeah, that was certainly bizarre to say the least. And for Tom Mercier, who has not had a terrific start to the season, at least according to the standings, he's been trying to make up some ground, lost 4 spots at the points after a little bit of misfortune at Kansas 1 week ago. And you see him kind of send it in on the bottom, and he's got a big run coming here. Kirker is on the low side. Mercier is going to try to slide up, and yeah, you could tell Kirker there was kind of pedaling a little bit, almost following the same line that we saw Sean Powell take earlier when he abruptly came down the pit area, but a good job of the rest of the field to avoid making that a much bigger crash. And now we await and see how timing and scoring looks now that the stop, or that the yellow flag has been thrown out here during this strange time in the race as we approach halfway.
Honestly, while it can be an inconvenience to drivers in the middle of a pit cycle, it can be fun because it causes quite a massive shakeup to the running order that you have in a race. Because at this point in time, the likes of Daniel Folkingham, who was leading the race, essentially gets a free pit stop. And I would expect a lot of his competitors to also come down onto the pit lane because they don't want to lose out on that tire degradation that they would be experiencing if they wouldn't come down to the pit lane under the caution flag. One more time on board with Kirker. Just see... That'll happen from time to time when you have such a drastic, I guess, difference, if you will, in the just rate of speed.
Pit stops across the board, and I can confirm Aiden Kirker, as we heard there in the broadcast, was definitely lifting for turn 4. Lifting to try and make it on the pit lane. And unfortunately gets collected there by Tom Mercier. Very quick yellow here. We're already about to go back green flag racing. David Shutt, Daniel Falkingham, the front row. Now, I believe Falkingham exited first, but of course, Shutt could have taken the top side. I dare say Falkingham is your race leader. Again, everybody pitting across the board all the way down through. It looks like 20th position is where you get or I guess 21st, where you get the first driver who did not pit under this caution flag. And oddly enough, that is Tom Mercier in the midst of taking his wave around to get back onto the lead lap, along with guys like Cole Freilich, Dylan Patterson, Taylor Frey, Elijah Gracia, many more trying to get their lap back into this caution period. And again, this changes everything. This throws everything in the last 46 laps completely out the window. And to be honest with you, we could be very close to a nose stop from somebody trying to save a little bit of fuel. The way these drivers were going, we just might see it. Green flag going to fly over the Nork field once more, and Daniel Falkingham with another great restart. 5 and 48 doing battle for second.
And Falkingham is going to get the jump out in front of the field that time as they approach turn number 1 with Shutt now up top. And Will Klein, somebody who we talked about as a favorite and front runner when we got to Daytona, when we got to Kansas, the results just have not been there. He's 12th in points and looking for his first W of the season if he can get his way up there and hold it throughout the second half of this race. Instead, he's going to slot in the third. And here comes Spencer Owen now trying to take that spot away from Klein, trying to hold that car down to the bottom is Owen. He's going to wash up wide out of turn number 4. Owen very loose off of 4.
And we're only one lap into this restart, and I have to say, this is probably the most calm I think we've seen a start or restart so far today. I think we've been relatively used to 3 wide, a couple rows deep, with a lot of double wide action, at the front and tail end of this just massive pod of cars, or gaggle, if you will. But no, for the first time today, it's relatively single file. I think guys have finally found the opportunity to be able to settle in. Of course, it did take a lot of attrition because at this point in time, we're down to about 25 cars on the lead lap.
Daniel Falkingham, your race leader once more, going to exit turn 4 and lap 49. You see the entire field just about single file in behind. We're getting a few questions over on the Nork feed of this broadcast. A few questions about some of the stuff within iRacing, and this may even help Eric out as somebody who isn't as familiar with the sim. There's a lot of stuff that myself and Trey and even Emerson take for granted, things that we just know, and we kind of forget to talk about sometimes on the stream. Now, we had Jonathan Wagner earlier asking about collision in the pit lane. Well, in the actual pit boxes and for a grace period exiting the pit lane, these cars cannot make contact. That said, when they are rolling down the pit lane in the normal taxiing lane, you can make contact, you can hit other cars, and you have to be careful. So you've got to make sure that you get over. You understand, you have to roll down pit lane like it's a real pit lane. You've got to go down on the right side and pull to the left lane when you're getting ready to pull into your box. Otherwise, bad things happen, and you often get contact in the pit lane. The other question was also about pitting and cautions, and asking about how many caution laps iRacing kind of dictates, and how iRacing determines that, how the software goes through that process. Well, it generally comes down to whether or not there are lap cars in the field. Usually, you get 1 pit lap. Well, first you get the reconnaissance lap to get the field back together. Then you get 1 pit lap for each grouping of lead lap drivers and lap down drivers to pit. Then you get another formation lap before they throw the one to green. So usually you're looking at a 4-lap caution, 5 if you include the reconnaissance lap, for most caution flags in the sim. When you have a lap down car, it can be the 3-lap caution if you don't have that lead lap car, which is why earlier cautions go faster as Spencer Ray. Oh my gosh. I don't know what just happened. Thankfully, regains control of that race car and will not give us another caution to test out how many laps we'll have.
Spencer Ray, somebody who did a great job missing the last incident that took place as they exited turn number 4 to put us under the last caution. That was such a good save. Let's go back and take a look at it one more time. We saw many drivers do this in practice, but they were not fortunate enough in order to be able to right the car. You see him following Daytona winner in Cody Miller in the draft and slipstream here. Perhaps going to look inside. No, elects to take it easy getting off into the corner, but got back to the power nice and early. You can already see the hands on the wheel there working a little bit towards the right, and then Oh, he scrubbed the wall, and that's what aimed him towards the inside retaining wall there. That could have been a major shunt for Spencer Ray. But as Andrew mentioned, fortunately, he was able to keep that thing pointed in the right direction. He will live to fight another day.
I think the important thing as we looked at the wheel inputs, if you will, from the driver of Spencer Ray there is just the fact that even after that contact, he was relatively calm, just put in minute movements to get out of the way of his fellow competitors to ensure everyone got away scot-free. And in turn, he doesn't suffer too much damage as a result. I mean, otherwise, Andrew, that was a pretty thorough explanation of a couple of nuances that people like you, me, and Emerson do take for granted for, just based off of how long we have been on the sim.
Yeah, boy, it's going to be going on 5 years this summer. It's all flown by. Tyler Justice battling just back inside the top 10 behind Brett Pancari and in front of Tommy Gossett. These two drivers did not get to use their earlier pit stops to their advantage. Rather, Gossett didn't. I think, Justice had pitted by the time we had the caution flag, but hadn't pulled the undercut quite like his teammate Sean Powell had, as Pancari and Klein get a battle out of turn number 2. Everything turned over on its head, waiting to see how this race is going to shake out. Now, lap 55 of 100, and things are starting to shape back up, but big wholesale changes throughout the field as, wow, Justice ships it up the inside of Will Klein.
And boy, if you're Tyler Justice, you have to wonder how many times you're going to have to battle back from some form of adversity or have to settle for whatever the race is willing to give you as far as a result, despite the pace and speed. You saw him abruptly move up there in front of Will Klein to cement that spot. We'll drop back here momentarily and take one more look at it. Trying to close up there on Brett Pancari for what would now be 7th position. And Tommy Gossett pretty much cutting the trail to the front with that of Justice. He's following him in the tire tracks, although you're looking out of the front bumper of Will Klein's car as they approach turns 3 and 4. And although we haven't logged as many laps since prior to the last yellow, this field's staying a little bit closer in proximity throughout about, we'll call it the top 10 or so, and a couple of cars still trying to make their way further forward as Falkingham has not been able to set sail as of yet.
Yeah, that's definitely a good point, Eric. It's almost a little reminiscent of what we've been seeing with the Cup Series at Michigan the last couple of years with the high downforce, low horsepower package, where sometimes you'll get a little bit of a single file train where guys sometimes have to gang up on each other to try to make an overtake happen. And that could be something that we begin to see just with how much single file action we've been seeing on this run so far. And also what I think this is doing, the lack of aggression to this point, it's allowing these guys to really conserve their tires, and they might have something to push with a little bit later into the run.
Nose to tail through the front portion of the field. David Schutt thought about maybe going to the inside of Falkingham that time by on the backstretch here in virtual Brooklyn, Michigan, but stays in behind Daniel Falkingham for now. And it's much like Matthew Quall is saying out in the chat, it is Talladega choo-choo time as these guys get settled in for the long haul. I'd imagine they're all planning to try and maybe save a little bit, either save their stuff for later in the race after a pit stop, or try and go to the end without pitting again, Eric. So everything, again, topsy-turvy, we'll keep saying it. Everything's been changed, waiting to find out exactly what these drivers plan to do, but it is worth mentioning we have a new competitor in the ring, and it is Zoltan Herczak, last season's NORC iRacing Series champion in the NASCAR 1987 Cup Car vehicles, the Chevrolet Monte Carlo and the Ford Thunderbird. It's not those 87 cars, completely different, but I will say, much like Trey mentioned earlier, this is more along the lines of bone stock, at least when it comes to the top 3 National Touring Series.
Yeah, Zoltan is somebody else who, same songs. We use the phrase "had trouble at Daytona." That's going to, pretty much involve half the field for the most part. Zoltan is in that category. He picked up 14 spots in the standings coming into tonight's race after a solid, strong run at Kansas. Well up there in the top 5 in the standings now, and pretty much back up to form and pace. And he's been counseling a lot of patience here tonight. Now that he's up there in the top 5 with a sniff of the lead, it's going to be fun to see how quickly he tries to get up there and towards the front of the pack. As right now the top 5 trying to end up in a league of their own, but they got company coming. Powell, Justice, and more, all trying to kind of extend that freight train of top 5 front runners we got there that head up the field, with Falkingham continuing to essentially dominate this race.
ultimately, you look throughout the top 10, and I think you see a lot of drivers that are fully capable of winning given the correct set of circumstances over the last 40 laps here at Michigan. Whether it be, say, Zoltan Hertzeg, or it could be Sean Powell, who was running up front with Wolkingham and Tyler Justice earlier, and one spot behind Powell is Tyler Justice. But of course, a lot of extreme things could happen, and some of the guys that might have, a bit more of that mid-pack pace, think maybe Tommy Gossett, who hasn't quite gotten up to the lead quite yet today. Certain things happen, and he could be a driver that could very easily move into winning contention.
Something almost did happen that time out of turn number 2. David Schutt got the inside line, and I believe this place has a little bit of progressive banking, at least for, across the seams from the bottom to the top. Something's different because that bottom side seems to have a little less banking, and it really gets a car de-wedged when you put the left sides on that very bottom groove, and it upset the 5 car the last time through. We'll see if Spencer Owens can avoid it as he now goes up the inside of the 5 car, battling for second place. These two NORC veterans going at it side by side, and they will hold that formation down the backstretch as Zoltan Hertzeg down to the inside of John Barry as well.
Hertzeg is going to try to take advantage of that momentary break in momentum as you see him send it off in there, trying to latch on to the back bumper of Spencer Owens as they come out of 4. Does he have the pass made on Barry to slot up in there? He may be clear, but he's not going to be too aggressive about it. That's going to allow Barry to hang on to the right rear quarter panel of that car as things are starting to get busy here throughout the front 5. Nobody's willing to ride and bide their time for now. It's all about trying to go and see what you've got for the latter stages of this one, as you can start to see Powell and Justice closing in as well to make it a 7-car race at the front of the pack.
Yeah, and while it looks like a train right now, as you said, Eric, the action is really starting to heat up, and I think now the question becomes, if you're the likes of, say, David Schutt, when are you going to attempt to try to make that move happen, or are you just going to sit back and be a little bit comfortable for the time being? Of course, you do have to take into consideration every time you try to go for an aggressive line in an attempt to try to make that pass, you're going to really wear out your tires. So it has to definitely be a calculated move if you are David Schutt or Spencer Owens.
While we wait to see what these drivers might do over the course of the next 37 laps or so, we'll take a moment to go Pit Stop TV side by side. Don't go anywhere, you won't miss a thing.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Sound Art is a product that is a speaker and it's art. We combine it together and we call it Sound Art. What makes it so unique that any picture can be your speaker? Sound Art gives you the high quality sound without the ugly speaker. This isn't a picture with a speaker, the picture is the speaker. Just imagine your wedding picture uploaded onto a canvas, and now it's speaking 10,000 tunes. I mean, it's a very cool concept. What we like so much about it is you can take anything that means something very special to you, upload it on the canvas, have it hanging up in your room, your balcony, wherever you want to put it, and now it's a speaker. It's something that we have that and no one has. No one has this product. It's just a great gift to give anybody. It's just a neat concept. Around here we say, art never sounded so good.
Have you found yourself trying to hide your joy because you're unhappy with your teeth? Your smile is the first feature noticed in an interview, on a date, or in family photos. We want you to be able to shine bright as your best self, and our teeth whitening system is the perfect step toward restoring your confidence.
And welcome back as action continues. We have a battle for the race lead. It's lap 67 of 100, just past 2/3, and Wolkingham fights back to the inside of David Schutt. They stay side by side. Now down the front stretch, some wonderful messages there from Tucson Sound Art and Permanent Makeup in Cryo in Maine. Zoltan Hertzeg joining the fray. Will we see 3 wide?
Boy, Herzeg certainly looked like he thought about it, and now it's going to be Falkingham under fire again. This time, though, it is not by Tyler Justice. It's by David Schutt as Falkingham slides up off the corner. Herzeg may be tempted here to make a move 3 wide. He's not sure which lane to follow. He's going to go up and push Schutt clear to the lead in 3 and see if he can try to get up there and perhaps get second back. But no, Falkingham hangs tough on the bottom. What a great race for the lead.
And as we come off of 4, it's still a dead heat. The advantage might be for the time being to Daniel Falkingham. We're going to be looking 3 wide onto the entry of turn 1. Across the start-finish line, it was 3. And now the question is anyone going to give, or is it going to be all taken? Will anyone suffer as a result? Herzeg is incredibly low. I'm going to be very impressed if he's able to make it stick coming down to the back straightaway. And he's exit.
Boy, that was close, and Spencer Owens going to give a nice little shove there to the 96 car to get him going on lap 69. Down to the bottom side once more goes Daniel Falkingham in the 5 of David Schutt right on his door. And Eric, that's so important because that stalls out the momentum just a little bit of that passing car, and it helps you defend. That said, you're giving up a lot of momentum, kind of stooping to their level, both literally and figuratively, and you're slowing yourself down the straightaway.
Yeah, and if you zig while your competitor zags, you both could end up in big trouble, especially when considering netcode possibilities. But for right now, these two have been practicing the art of the side draft to near perfection as Schutt takes it all the way to the outside retaining wall. There is some lap traffic ahead, while Herzeg has been able to fend off Sean Powell for the 3rd spot. But we've been side by side for the lead, and at sometimes 3 wide for about the last 4 laps or so. This battle rages on as we're coming up on just 30 laps to go in the 3rd race of the season. Schutt and Falkingham nearly banging doors for the race lead.
And if that's the finish we get, I think very simply you can almost, quote the film Gladiator and just say, are you not entertained? Because that was an incredibly fun race for the stripe. And I'm sure we're going to get a lot of that over the last 30 laps or 60 miles here at Michigan International Speedway. Herzeg, I believe that is. Oh, no, we backtrack a little bit. That's Sean Powell. That was a massive kick of oversteer, and it was incredibly impressive that he was able to hang on to the car as we head into the entry of 3. Still a dead heat for that lead spot.
There's a lot going on here. You see the group behind these leaders going at it side by side as Falkingham finally gets clear of Schutt for a moment, and you see that battle come back into frame. Teammates going at it here for the 4th spot as you've got Tyler Justice inside of Sean Powell, John Barry's here, Spencer Owens, even Sheldon Lockie, but Sheldon Lockie is a lap down. I'm going to look for that 69 machine. Did he pit? He's on new tires. Look at him soar on the bottom side, slices and dices that Melon Man machine right on by those guys.
And if Lockie could get through these top 3 relatively cleanly, that may be a race-winning move depending on how the rest of this event plays out. But back up front, it is Falkingham. They're going to have Lockie here looking low, just like Tommy Gossett did at the midway point of the race. Here comes Lockie down low. Falkingham will cement the lead. Lockie, though, on those fresh tires will put himself back on what should be the lead lap, while Falkingham and Schutt will calm their battle for a moment. But the question is for how long?
We head onto the entry of 1 in for the first time in a couple of laps. We are single file between the top 2. And I think what that side-by-side battle really did was create a net positive for the likes of Zoltan Herzeg, who was really able to probably conserve his tires as he let those guys battle it out. And it might provide him with a little bit more grip over the last leg of this stint.
Nothing has calmed down as Spencer Owens is battling just behind Tyler Justice. John Barry, no, there we go. Sean Powell, the first to pit out of these leaders, just like the last time through. So he makes his stop here, completing lap 73 of 100. We're getting down to a quarter of the way to go. It's going to be very, very close on tires. They're going to be feeling great to the end, but I think they've all waited a little bit too long.
Yeah, now the question is, when does Falkingham make his move? Remember back at Kansas, he pretty much timed the pit stop to perfection, and that's what gave him the lead, which Tyler Justice was unable to close up down to more than just about 2 seconds as David Schutt's going to look low, and this is also going to hurt. If Falkingham is thinking about coming to pit lane, he's not going to be able to do it here. It looks as though he's trying to crowd Schutt low off the corner, and it's going to be Schutt who dives to the pit lane. So there's your move from one of the front runners. Do not speed as he slides all 4 tires there, trying to get that car woe down.
Pure commitment all around by Schutt. He was getting the most trying to stall out his competitor in Falkingham and that might provide him the opportunity to make the undercut work. The question, of course, becomes, did he speed on the pit lane? I think I saw the right side jack up, so he should be good to go.
You see the rest of these front runners then down the back straightaway, and I wonder if Falkingham may have come over the radio, maybe said pitting that time, and Schutt said, no, you're not. Boy, wouldn't that be a storyline if that was the case? Who knows? These drivers know, we surely don't. Maybe we'll find out in Nork Radioactive later this week. Zoltan Herzog pits on lap 75. This is 1 quarter to go as Tyler Justice follows his teammate in Sean Powell down just 1 lap later, and it looks like, well, we got one more car. I'm trying to find him. That's going to be Cody Miller coming down the pit lane. I'm trying to track him down. All the positions changing makes it very tough to find a car sometimes in a pit cycle, and there is the Daytona race winner.
So Cody Miller, as we mentioned earlier, was involved in the lap 1 incident, or I should say early race incident that brought out our first caution. But as the pit stop cycle through, you see Falkingham, Berry, Owens have yet to stop. And I'm surprised here if Falkingham is going to stay out much longer. You see, Spencer Owens decides now is the time to come to the pit lane. And that is a much cleaner pit entry that we've seen compared to some of his competition here tonight, as that driver is going to lead his car to the box for what should be 4 tires in service, and he is not going to be completely alone. Scott Shire, the next car to come down. You see what looks to be some right side damage from an earlier crash, but Shire is having a pretty competitive night so far this evening. But the fun of this race, Trey, may be watching Falkingham come out on fresh tires and be a little bit further behind some of the competition and not have too much time to make up ground if this race was to stay green, as it looks as though he's going to forego the pit lane again if he plans on stopping at all, maybe?
I think we do have to begin to ask that question just because of when we got that last caution flag. We were seeing guys really able to stretch it on that first run. It would have been about, I think it was around lap 45 or 46 when we got that caution flag, and there were some guys that had not yet ducked down onto the pit lane. So in the least, you have to ask yourself, is it possible for the likes of Daniel Falkingham? Because the more and more he stays out, the tougher it's going to be to try to make that overcut work. Regardless, I think we are setting up for a pretty exciting run to the end over the last 22, 23 laps.
I'm curious by this move from Daniel Falkingham to stay out this long. It looks like Tommy Gossett's going to hold tough with them, along with Chad Oxendine third, now Bobby Chaney up to fourth, and Jared Darling currently completes your top 5. Very interesting. These guys seem to be going for it. They're either going for the no-stop strategy in this last little run to the finish, or they are maybe just waiting on that caution, but they're really going to shoot themselves in the feet if they do. I'm not so sure about this move. But hey, Falkingham dipping in behind and snaking there with Will Klein to grab the draft suggests that maybe he is trying to save fuel. I've not heard the clutch go in on that 20 car. In fact, he rode on board with him. I didn't hear it. We can follow the telemetry as well. I don't think I've seen those revs drop like he's saving fuel, but drafting like that suggests he might.
That's a very good point there, Andrew. He literally followed Will Klein in the tire tracks. And, I mean, here's the other end of this spectrum here. So, if Falkingham, Gossett, and company stay out, and we do get a late race caution, I expect everybody to be forced to essentially come down the pit lane to try to put on tires, if they still have available, of course, as they are limited the amount of sets. And look at Falkingham, though. He's even going to draft off the car that is coming out of the pit lane that's just in front of him. That's Howie Briss, who he tried to sniff a bit of a draft off of, despite the obvious damage to the back end of Briss' car. But if we do have a late race yellow, and Falkingham is still up front,
he's pitting.
And he, in fact, is going to come this time. So throw that out the window. Here comes Falkingham, the leader and dominator, real crossed up as he got on the binders. Let's see how he cycles through as Tommy Gossett will go to the lead.
A long trail of smoke, as you said, Eric. That was full commitment from race leader Daniel Falkingham. Gossett will be the man to lead for the time being, but I would expect, just based off of the fact that we're seeing the leader come down, that maybe these guys don't have enough fuel to go to the end of the race. We'll just have to see how aggressive the likes of Gossett are with trying to make that fuel work all the way to the end of the race. Right side jacks up for race leader Falkingham, and now the question becomes, will he be the man leading coming off the pit lane?
Sean Powell has been stuck in the pit lane, is now 7 laps down. Daniel Falkingham passed the number 38, who's been sitting there. I'm not sure what the issue is. The car looks clean, I think. Big problems here for Sean Powell, though, and he's been stuck in the pit lane, stopped in the pit lane for several laps at this point. Falkingham exits the pits, and he'll get back up on the racetrack. Gossett currently leading, and I'd imagine these guys, they should all have to pit. I know it's close, but I just don't know if you can keep the speed necessary to stay out front over the course of this run. Guys who have pitted, in fact, Bobby Chaney's down the pit lane finally. I thought he had pitted more recently, but I guess he had stayed out to this point. He comes down the pit lane. The guys who have pitted are now up to 7th place in David Shutt. And he is only some 23 seconds currently behind race leader Tommy Gossett. So the gaps are narrowing, and over the course of these next 17 laps or so, 18 laps, that time by the stripe, the lap times are going to differ by some 2 seconds almost. Second and change, it seems like, about a second and a half. So this might still work out. Even if Tommy Gossett decides not to pit, this might still work out for the guys who have pitted in the case of David Shutt.
Yeah, so we're going to try to keep our eyes here on the running order. I saw the last time through, Falkingham was about 16th. We are seeing some Morse drivers come down for service, it looks like. Gossett's still the leader. He may be the one who's going to try and stretch it, but look at Falkingham. He's got the bit between his teeth and just ran his fastest lap of the race. Not just his fastest, but the fastest lap of the race so far as we approach 15 to go, and he knows he's got to start boogieing his way up there because Shutt, who should take over the lead if everybody ahead of him still has to stop or cannot make it on fuel, is already at about the 6th spot.
Yeah, this is going to be incredibly intriguing to watch. If you're comparing, say, Shutt to Daniel Falkingham, Shutt holds a gap of about 7 or 8 seconds, which, if you're eliminating all the cars in between Falkingham and Shutt, that's about half a second that he's going to have to close up lap on lap to be able to get to the man who I would assume would be our race leader at the end of the pit cycle, David Shutt, at least at this current point in time.
Oh, he definitely will be. Zoltan Herzeg is over a second back, not quite battling just yet. And these guys up front, they seem to have made their bed, and it's time to lie in it. That said, here comes Chad Oxendine. Maybe it's not over. Maybe these guys are really, I'm going to be honest, throwing away a chance at victory by staying out this long. This really is a head scratcher to me. Why you would stay out this long as Chad Oxendine. Man, he's lucky he didn't miss his box for the second time this evening.
Yeah, the only thing I could think of, Andrew, is the fact that these guys were trying to play the caution game. Maybe they thought if they stayed out and cycled through, it would put them on the same playing field as the rest of the competition, and they would be up front with the freshest tires. And we've seen how much that has made a bit of a difference here so far tonight. But with the laps unwinding, we got 15 to go. Gossett is one of the few who's going to have a chance to perhaps take this race away on fuel strategy. Here is David Shutt, who currently holds down the 4th spot. But we believe he's going to cycle through as the leader with Zoltan Herzeg going to be just behind. Now, Herzeg was about 2 seconds behind Shutt immediately after the pit stop. So by virtue of the draft, there's some sheer pace. It appears as though that even if things do cycle through, as Cole Freilich rockets by, because he just came off the pit lane with some fresh rubber, but is a lap down, it appears this could turn into our battle for the lead, as we're not seeing Falkingham make up the ground that he would have hoped for, although he's not necessarily too far back. He's 11th in the running order and 5 seconds off this lead duo, what should turn into our lead duo if the top 3 can't make it.
And Herzeg is coming with a full head of steam here onto the front straightaway. And as I look onto timing and scoring, these guys are on the relatively same tires. Herzeg only pits 1 lap later than David Shutt, but he ultimately seems to have a bit more pace than the driver of the 5 for the time being. So presumably move Zoltan Herzeg to what will eventually be the race lead. Of course, as I say it again, we assume.
And Tyler Justice now is closing. Look at him, just a little ways back of these two as they run nose to tail into the corner. The blue dot ahead, that is back end of David Shutt. This is from Tyler Justice perspective, and he's got a couple of laps newer tires than both of these drivers. So things really shaping up in the latter portions of this race. A few drivers have, it looks like, retired this evening. Of course, Josh Robin after a very early incident. Dylan Hervutton, as we've learned for the pronunciation there for the driver of the 19. Hayes Booth in the 32nd spot. Michael Keithley in 31st. Terrell Baker, unfortunately, now 51 laps down in 30th. Aiden Kirker in 29th. Matt Hummel in 28th. Sean Powell, for some reason, stopped in the pit lane in 27th. But everybody else is on this racetrack back. Dylan Patterson is the last of those drivers running, 3 laps down. Howie Briss, Patrick Colby, they're both a couple of laps down. Spencer Ray is 1 lap down as David Schutt still tries to work on Zoltan Herzeg. And both of the drivers that we were waiting on to pit are pitting. This is a head scratcher for me. I don't get it.
So Gossett is not going to be able to stretch it. It looks as though he's not going to catch the help of a yellow. Also, Sean Williams, one of the previous winners at Michigan, has to come down for service, and he had to back up. He overshot his pit there. That's going to hurt him even more so. May end up with the freshest tires in the field if they elect to take them, but here's the battle for the lead, and here is the interesting part about this race. Herzeg out in front, Schutt obviously there in second, Justice third, but Falkingham with the freshest tires of the front runners after stopping extremely late, has just made the pass to get up into the top 5. Is 11 laps going to be enough time for Falkingham to get up there and mix it up with these drivers for the lead and win?
As timing and scoring updates, we get a little bit better of a picture of where Falkingham stands in relation to the leaders. And yeah, he's probably been gaining about a second a lap, a little bit less than that, over the, actually since he came out of the pit lane. So as of now, he definitely has the pace to get up there. But of course, getting up to the driver ahead is one thing. Overtaking is an entirely different thing.
This time it'll be 10 laps to go for these drivers at the front of the field. Falkingham is on the move. And this is a 4, maybe 5 car race as John Barry's a little ways behind, Brent Pincari as well. And we've seen this with the LTAC Cup Series rather recently, where a late race pit cycle with some differing strategies still brought these guys together just by virtue of the draft, being able to reduce the, of course, drag on the race car and go a little bit faster, just, quite simply use the slipstream to gain time. That is what you do with the draft. It's what you see at Daytona, Talladega. And it's why you see these drivers snaking in what will be a preview of the IRL IndyCar Series kicking off tomorrow night. We've got 4 races at least slated for coverage with those guys. You can catch Long Beach tomorrow night. But for right now, coming to 9 laps to go, we're starting to see that snake down the straightaways, and who knows where this might go.
Yeah, right now, of the front 4, Falkingham clearly the fastest, but eventually that tire advantage may equal out as this run continues on, especially if he's been pushing as hard as we expect him to have been, having pitted so late. Tyler Justice, we talked earlier about the motivation behind that driver to try to have a solid finish here today, or better yet, even a win, but he's trying to fend off the car that edged him out of Kansas 1 week ago in what is now a race for 3rd. We're side by side into turn number 3 with Falkingham aggressively making the pass and moving up into the 3rd spot. Next on the agenda is going to be David Schutt for 2nd.
A slight bobble mid-corner for Tyler Justice, I think, is going to eliminate any chance of him having a counterattack on Falkingham. And the other thing that is definitely in danger right now is the streak of runner-up finishes for Tyler Justice. Of course, if he hangs on to 4th right now, he's still going to pick up a massive points haul, which is going to keep him up there in what is currently... Let's see, I believe he's in the top 3 in the points chase right now, so he's doing a very impressive job. But as we said, Falkingham now, as you said rather, Eric, chasing down runner-up David Schutt. He's going to move to the outside line, and that's going to make his overtaking attempt even easier than going to the inside line.
Easily. 2nd place for Daniel Falkingham goes right on by David Schutt like he was standing still on entry to turn 3. I've noticed something, though, a very common theme through the entire top 5. If we look at these 5 cars, Eric, what do they all have in common? They're all very blue.
Okay, well,
the 2 winners so far have been black and blue, and all the front runners this evening have blue on their race cars. It's a very interesting theme so far this season.
I can pretend that I'm colorblind, but unfortunately I'm not. That one just went over my head, so I'll claim mulligan. But how about this battle that we got brewing up here, not just for the lead, but also for 3rd? Tyler Justice sees Falkingham and Herzeg starting to set sail. He wants to try to get by David Schutt here for this 3rd spot before he loses touch with those top 2, and he's going to work the outside. You also saw John Berry that last time get very loose off of turn 2, so some of these guys that may have pitted a little bit earlier are starting to lose the back end of their race car, and these battles for position are getting tight as this is the race for 3rd, nearly coming together off turn 2.
And for a moment, I thought the 7 and the 5 had a little bit of a contact, which is overall incredible racecraft. A lot of respect shown between these 2 drivers. And I'm sure we're going to see a lot of respect shown between the drivers ahead of them as well. we have two incredible fights for two important positions on the racetrack. First place and rounding out the podium. It's going to be 5 laps to go. Only 10 miles left around Michigan International Speedway.
And the rest of the top 7 is close behind. We've got guys like Spencer Owens here, just a little ways back of Pancari, who's only a little ways back of Barry. So everything very close up in the front, side by side for third up ahead as Justice brings the fight to David Schutt. Can Tyler Justice go podium 3 weeks in a row? It's going to be tough as the leaders battle down to turn number 3. Finally, Daniel Falkingham has caught Zoltan Herzeg.
You saw Herzeg trying to crowd him a little bit there. This time, though, Falkingham can't complete the pass. Herzeg's going to hang tough up top, or is he? Falkingham slides up in front of Herzeg to cement the lead as they come to the line with just 4 laps to go.
Quite literally bump drafting down the front straightaway. And now the question, will Herzeg use the bumper, or is he going to try an alternative line to try to make a counterattack happen? Is going to get a bit of a wider arc, but unfortunately he's going to be a couple tenths of a second back. The question becomes, will he have any run on the back straightaway? He is going to get a little bit closer. He's there. The question is he going to go to the inside or the outside? Heading into turn 3, side by side once more. It's going to be 3 to go when we get to the line this time, Andrew.
And Falkingham protecting that bottom side. That's interesting to me. Usually the top is where you want to defend from, but he does not want Zoltan to the bottom side of his number 20. He's going to defend all the way down to the white line, likely to the grass as well. 3 laps to go.
This is good stuff. Herzeg now trying to get a fender up to the outside. Nearly got squeezed up into the wall. He's going to lift early in the corner, get back to the gas as soon as he can. If he can keep his foot in it, he may have a good run down the backstretch. But Falkingham has him cleared for the time being. These two are putting on an absolute thriller to close out this race. Falkingham back to the lead. Both drivers trying to hang on. And Herzeg's going to have to regroup and try again, but he's running out of time. It'll be 2 to go at the line.
Couple car lengths separate the top 2. Still relatively tight for that third position. We have a lot to settle yet over the last 4 miles at Michigan International Speedway. It looks like as we go down the front straightaway that Falkingham is going to pull a bit more of a gap this time. Herzeg still may have something up his sleeve. We don't know. Side by side onto the entry of turn 1. A full send by the 7 of Tyler Justice. That's going to put him well clear. And now the question becomes, does Schutt have anything on the back straightaway? He's going to look for the crossover. He will be in the lead side by side down the back straightaway. And now the question becomes, does he have anything on the inside line as we get to the entry of turn 3. Only a lap and a half to go here at Michigan International Speedway. Falkingham continues to lead, and near contact between these two.
If it isn't a full send, it's not a send at all, as David Schutt tries to fight back to the inside of Tyler Justice. White flag in the air, though, however, for Maine's Daniel Falkingham. He is about to take his win total and expand it from 4 to 6 this season if he hangs on for the final mile and a half at Michigan. David Schutt still working the bottom side of Tyler Justice. This the fight for the bottom step of the podium. And now in the last lap, the last 2 miles here at the Michigan International Speedway, it is all the 2-0. The Chevrolet Camaro with first-rate bait and Raging Cajun graphics alongside of that car. The send from Zoltan. He was going to go for a short track bump and run. It never was going to work, but I love the spirit there from Zoltan. And Daniel Falkingham exits Michigan a race winner.
Falkingham with the victory. Herzeg second. Justice top 3 again. However, this time he will settle for third, but a great start to the season for him. But for Falkingham, the point leader, he's going to extend the championship lead and pick up, as Andrew mentioned, his 2nd win of the season and add to his all-time win total in NORC competition. But what a run there in 3 and 4 for Herzeg, while Schutt and John Berry round out your top 5.
That was, without a doubt, an incredible race. Glad to be a part of the team getting to call this one, as always. Wasn't sure what Michigan was going to present for us. I would have assumed, based off of last week, maybe a couple less caution flags, a little bit more spread out action, but we had pure excitement from flag to flag in this one. And by all means, just look forward to North Wilkesboro. And for the 2nd week in a row, it's going to be Daniel Falkingham with the opportunity to do a clinical burning it down, this time with a lot of pavement on hand.
And Falkingham, it's done. That's win number 6 now for the driver out of the 207 area code. This is big stuff for Daniel Falkingham. Just keeps putting these amazing races together. Daytona, of course, is the outlier. Daytona, anything can happen. But Kansas last week absolutely stole the show. This evening at Michigan, steals it once again. 74 laps led. Eric, that is almost 3/4 of this race that the 20 was able to lead en route to another victory. And very quickly, unlike the NASCAR Cup Series, we have our first repeat winner. But they do both come in the same week. How about that? Martin Truex Jr. the 19 on Sunday and Daniel Falkingham in the 20 on Tuesday. We'll take a step aside. We'll be right back to you after a quick post-race break. And well, we talk to Daniel Falkingham along with Zoltan Herczeg and Tyler Justice. Your entire podium is what you have to look forward to from Michigan.
Sound Art introduces an entirely new way to listen to music in your home. By combining the best of two products, a revolutionary high-fidelity, low-profile Bluetooth wireless speaker with beautiful artwork. Select from a library of artwork or upload your own photos to personalize your experience. Sound Art ushers in an era of invisible, beautiful, and amazing sound throughout your home and redefines your entire entertainment system. The need to reclaim your floor space and rid your home of unsightly speaker boxes that need to be bolted to the wall is now a thing of the past. Our canvas is printed on high-quality permalite by Breathing Color. And select from our gallery or upload your own. Standard sizes include 16 by 20 and 18 by 24 canvas wrapped. Custom sizing is available, as well as surround sound options.
After months of quarantine, we're all interested in how we can become our best self. The team at Permanent Makeup and Cryo is here to help you get the flawless makeup look every day without the extra effort or time. When it comes to your appearance, you deserve the best care that money can buy.
Welcome back to the Michigan International Speedway. 100 laps, 200 miles in the books here in, the virtual state of Michigan, Brooklyn, Michigan. What a race. I mean, what a race. This is the backyard, rather, for Chevrolet and Ford, for the manufacturers here in the NASCAR National Touring Series. And it's going to be Chevrolet going to victory lane this evening. In fact, sweeping the podium finishing positions. And it's none other than Maine's Daniel Falkingham taking a second consecutive race win. Daniel Falkingham, this is the second time you're speaking to me after a race, and that's a good thing.
A very, very good thing indeed. I cannot believe we managed to pull that one off. I was a little skeptical on my pit strategy at first when I decided to come in at 20 to go, but I knew with how much tire fall off we had tonight and how much the times were falling off, I felt like I could do it if I could just get through traffic well and had enough draft from a lot of cars. So the draft was really, really strong tonight. I was surprised how well the draft held up. I mean, we had a pretty good line of cars that were stuck together. I mean, 8 to 10 cars within like 2 or 3 seconds. So hopefully it provided a good race for the fans. I know it was definitely a lot of fun behind the wheel. But yeah, I still can't believe we managed to do that. Can't believe we went 2 in a row. I mean, man, what another flawless race. Can't remember the last time that's ever happened to me here. So just feels so good right now.
Don't worry, you weren't the only one who was skeptical. Going into that last little run, we really wanted to grab one of you guys to talk to you guys and ask you about that pit strategy, because it almost seemed close enough that if you really wanted to save fuel, maybe you could have gone the whole way. What was the plan from that last green flag?
The plan was to split it I bet a lot of guys wanted to split it because there was no way we weren't gonna make it on fuel anyway. Because I mean, we had the two cautions in the first half of the race, and we still weren't even gonna make it to halfway. So we pretty much knew right there that it was gonna be a one-stopper. It was either split in half or go along and have the fresh tires at the end, which is what I wanted to do. I saw everyone peeling off behind me, but I felt like if I could get the fresh tires, I felt like I could run them down if I got the traffic right. And I had a lot of draft from a lot of cars, and I was hitting my lines right. And I was able to get by cars one by one without really any issue. So that was the big thing, was getting through traffic and just having the strong draft compared to like Zoltan, who didn't have any draft there at the end of the race. So that was allowing me to draw me closer to him. But the thing was, it was hard to shake him there in the last few laps because the draft, like I mentioned, is so strong. And yeah, it was just so hard racing there for the last few laps, but we eventually got away. Zoltan tried one last send there in the end, and I saw it coming. I actually had to gas up there in the end of 3 and 4 to make sure I didn't get hit and bring home the victory. So yeah, the strategy was pretty all over the place tonight, especially in the first round of green flag stops when people got trapped by that caution. So it was definitely an interesting but very strategic race tonight, which is, you don't get all those every day.
So Daniel, you've quickly gone from just 4 wins here in the NORC iRacing Series, tied with so many, to now 6, tied with only Will Klein. Did you expect for this to be suddenly your season in NORC, or is this a big surprise even to you?
Well, it just depends on who are racing each and every week. I mean, you got the great drivers like Femi. I remember Femi racing here, Justin Lisenby, Marcus Richardson, all them guys, Bobby Zelensky as well. But of course, a lot of those guys are working with Road to Pro and doing a lot of stuff in the Coke Series. So with all those guys gone out this season and whatnot, I feel like this is my chance to shine and to really show this field what I can do and to show everyone else what I can do. I know we've had a rough year. I mean, we've had some good seasons here in the past. I think this is my 5th season in NORC now, and just the previous 4 we've had some really good runs, and a lot of seasons I just want to forget about. But I think I'm finally starting to show what I'm capable of, and I'm definitely starting to show I'm not one you want to mess with this year. So I mean, my aggression definitely showed tonight there in those last few laps, not wanting to give up the lead because the draft being so strong and whatnot. But I feel like this will be a good year, but we got to take it week by week because you're not going to get these races every week. So it's just going through race by race and make sure you can be the best you can be. So hopefully we can keep doing that the rest of the season. And yeah, I'm looking forward to see what the next few races hold for us.
It's funny you mentioned past winners here, especially at Michigan, where we've seen guys like Marcus Richardson win 3, Bobby Zelensky win 5, and at a racetrack that's been on the NORC schedule for 12 of 13 seasons, you're one of only 6 drivers that's won here. Congratulations. Who do you have to thank? Who do you have to shout out this evening at Michigan?
Yeah, I just got to thank Revan and John Barry for putting on this league. Just got to thank all the drivers who come out racing each and every week to make these races a good time. It was another good race tonight, only like 2 or 3 cautions, so we're definitely getting better with the cautions-wise, but that's probably going to change next week with North Wilkesboro, short track, and whatnot. But still, shout out to everyone who comes out and races each and every week. I got to thank you guys for putting on the broadcast. You guys have been killing it with the broadcast the last 2 weeks, so definitely going to be a fun one to go back and watch. Sorry, I messed up my words here. I got to thank all the fans who come out and watch each and every week, and yeah, thank my personal sponsors, First Aid Bait, Lobster 207 as well.
I'll tell you what, those sponsors you mentioned, First Rate Bait, Lobster 207, they got plenty of TV time this evening. Congratulations, 74 laps led, that's big. I'm sure we'll be talking to you a whole lot more this season, though. I'm sure that lap 74 number is just going to keep going up and up.
Hey, thank you, Andrew. We're going to keep putting on a good show for you guys, so appreciate it.
Daniel Falkingham, 2nd win on the season, now 6th win in his NORC career, and he is one of now only 6 drivers to do it here at the Michigan International Speedway. That said, we'll hand it down to Eric Brennan with runner-up Zoltan Herzeg.
Thanks a lot, Andrew Cardinale, and we'll pull Zoltan Herzeg into the broadcast booth and talk about what was, so far, the best finish of the season for the reigning champion. Misfortune at Daytona, really strong run at Kansas, runner-up finish here. But the first question I have for you, Zoltan, what was the agenda in Turn 3 on the final lap? It looked like a full send from our perspective, and it certainly got us all up off our seats here for a moment. What were you thinking there in that final corner with that last-ditch effort trying to get by Falkingham for the win?
I just wanted to make it a little interesting. He cleared himself on my nose and then hit my left front going into 1. So there, all right, he might be fine with a little tap, you know. So I was just maybe try to get him a little sideways or something, try to do something. But he had the better tires. He was a lot quicker, and but it was definitely a fun race. I didn't even think that I was gonna make it into this race. My computer was having issues. I wound up missing the start, and just kind of bided my time, and then I was able to get to I think 6th to 7th or so on that long run, and then we had that caution, and I knew I should have just. Usually I like just waiting and then just pitting with the leader, and then you just have even tires and then just driver versus driver. And I should have just did that. I was thinking everybody was going to split that last run, but Daniel had the right move by staying out a couple laps later, and he had those that newer tires, and that draft was a killer, and that was a fun race though.
I think all three of us at the broadcast booth will agree there. I think we all wrote Daniel off. We thought maybe he pitted too late and wouldn't have enough time to make it back, but your night was so incredibly interesting, and honestly, it fits the mold of a series champion. I mean, if we look at the timeline, as you mentioned, missed the start, 26th, avoided all the big crashes. I know it's not the win that you were hoping for, but considering how things went at Daytona, is this season pretty much on pace for what will hopefully be a championship defense on your part?
Yeah, so far it's looking that way. Just getting lucky right now, and just need to put some good races together, and not get messed up like I did at Daytona, and just keep chugging along.
Well, we've had fun on the high-speed stuff, Daytona, Kansas, Michigan, but now we're getting to go to a short track. So if there's any scores to be settled, that's the best opportunity to get the job done. North Wilkesboro, first short track of the season, 1 week from tonight. What is your level of confidence there heading into the first short track event of the season?
The confidence level is close to zero there. I'm not too big on the short tracks. I'm not that good there. Hopefully, I could try to figure something out, and we'll see what happens. Maybe if it was the 87 car, it'd be a little different, because I like that car there, but I never ran this car there, so it should be interesting.
Well, staying out of trouble may be a key to that one, and you proved to be darn good at that here tonight. Now, Zoltan, before we let you go and celebrate this runner-up finish, just want to open up the floor to you. Who do you have to thank for this strong run to kick off your 2021 Newark season?
I gotta thank my computer for barely making me in there, and I gotta thank you guys for doing a great job with these broadcasts. They're really fun to rewatch, and gotta thank John Barry, of course, for setting this up. It's definitely a fun league, and thanks for everybody for watching.
Well, thank you for being a part of it. Thank you for making it here tonight. Thank you for making it exciting in that last corner. Zoltan Herczeg, our second-place finisher tonight. Congratulations. We'll see you next week in North Wilkesboro.
Thanks, man.
And again, that is Zoltan Herczeg, our reigning champion, who, when all said and done, may move up to the top 3 in points. My math's not all that good, but we'll double-check that once they are official. And now we're going to turn it over to someone who we've talked to a lot this season. I'm going to turn it over to Trey Shuttlesworth, who's going to be with our third-place finisher in Tyler Justice.
Thank you, Eric. And we're talking to a driver who is the only person that can say that they've held a podium in all 3 events so far this season. And Tyler, while it might not be a second place and it's the end of your run of 2 consecutive runner-up finishes, it's still a podium. What are the initial thoughts getting out of the virtual cockpit, and what was your mindset going into that final run?
It was a pretty good race overall. I mean, I can't complain. Another podium finish, like you said. Good point stay. Just caution caught us there under green flag stops and kind of put us behind the 8 ball, and we had to drive up through the field and never caught another caution to get us bunched back up. So I think that's what kind of hurt us there. Really impressed with the speed we had. I didn't get to put in any practice this week. I just didn't have time, and was really happy with the pace that we still had. Me and my teammate Sean there, we were digging there, and just got caught by that caution. I think that's what really hindered us there, but nonetheless still drove back up to 3rd, so can't complain too much about that. Just wish that caution wouldn't have caught us there, and I think we would have been good, or maybe caught another caution and got bunched back up to the leaders there. But no, decided to pit a few laps before they did on that last restart, or on that last pit stop. Have a little bit fresher tires to start off with, and maybe was hoping it was going to equal out, and maybe I would have got another spot or 2, but just had too much distance in between us before we pitted, so I was really kind of just handicapped there. But no, like I said, overall good race, happy with it. Just another good point stay, and we'll move on to next week.
Now, you did already say, Tyler, that you didn't get the opportunity to really log any practice laps going into tonight's event, but you were still able to come away with a 4th place starting position. So with that in mind, what was your mindset going into the start of the 200 miles or 100 laps tonight?
Really just feel the car out and see what it's going to do, because like if you don't get any practice, you don't get to test any long runs or anything to see what the car will do and how it'll respond if you push it early and kind of burn the tires off. And depending on how the setup's set up, it'll burn one tire off more than the other, just trying to find that balance of how hard you need to push in the beginning. And that's really what I was trying to do. It didn't seem like you had to save too much. I mean, I was backing up my entry a little bit, just trying to save a little bit of right front if I needed it to get off the corner good. But overall, it felt pretty smooth. I had good rotation. If anything, I was a little tight getting into 3, but overall, I mean, it felt really good. Like I said, I was impressed with the speed for not having any practice this week. So, like I said, just take that good point stay, and we'll try to put in the work for North Wilkesboro, I think is where we're going next. So, we'll just try to go get them there.
Nope, that's a good point to bring up the points haul, because you did come into tonight's running here at Michigan, 3rd place in the point standings, and a 3rd place here tonight is only going to back that up. So yeah, at this point in time, all we can do is look ahead to North Wilkesboro. So it's going to be the first time where we're not at a high-speed speedway or super speedway, if you will. What are you expecting out of our first stop at a short track, and one that could be quite infamous for, quite frankly, a lot of aggressive contact, high-contact racing?
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to have a few more cautions than we had in the previous 2 weeks, I can tell you that. But no, I'm excited for it. I like short tracks. I like when you have to use the brake a good bit. I seem to do pretty good with that. So we'll just see. Just got to be in the right place at the right time. Try to stay up front is the main thing, and stay away from all the carnage. Even if you got a good group of drivers, you're going to make contact if you're back there mid-pack. So just going to try to keep that track position and not get the car torn up too much, and I think we'll have a shot at that.
All right, thank you for your time, Tyler. We absolutely do appreciate it. Before you head out tonight, is there anyone you'd like to thank, sponsor, friend, family-wise?
Yes, shout out to all my teammates at Phase 2 Motorsports as always. Thank all of our sponsors with Matrix Muscle Cars, Gearhead Coffee, Amsoil. Thank all you guys for putting the league together and broadcasting and whatnot, and we'll see you guys next week.
All right, thank you, Tyler. So that rounds out our interview session here. Tyler Justice is going to round out the podium. He'll finish 3rd place, backing up 2 second place finishes to start the season. So without a doubt, one of the most consistent starts to the season.
Finishing first, of course, Daniel Falkingham's not even stealing that win. It kind of feels like a steal there at the end, but dominating fashion this evening for the driver out of Maine. And well, he gets a lot of flack for being from Maine. People saying, "Oh, it's boring up there." I tell you what, it's a great state, and the home, of course, of permanent makeup and cryo in Maine, as well as now 2-time race winner on NORC Season 13 and points leader Daniel Falkingham. An amazing run so far that this guy's putting together, and he's got a lot of talent as well. I look forward to seeing what he can do both in this season of NORC as well as just on iRacing in general, Eric, as he continues to put together a pretty nice career on the sim. Zoltan Herczeg ends up 2nd place this evening. Spoke with him and Tyler Justice. Atop the podium, David Schutt finishes 5th with John Barry in 5th.
Then we see the 6th place runner and Brett Pancari, who was somebody who was in the mix and in the top 5, pretty much there late in the going. Lost a couple of spots towards the end, but a great run there. And Spencer Owens, who had an amazing save off turn 4 towards the end of this race, able to keep the car underneath them and salvage what was a strong finish for him. He is somebody who is also trying to keep himself up in contention as the season rolls on. He's 8th in points, and he may climb a couple more spots when all's said and done. Will Klein now starting to find his traditional stride and running place, 8th after tonight's running. And Aaron Smith, what a great start to the season for this driver after being up towards the front on more than one occasion. He was outside the cut line in points, but this top 10 is certainly going to help him out as far as getting back up there. Remember, he already had a top 5 finish earlier in the year at Daytona, and Tommy Gossett rounds out your top 10. Despite hitting the wall, despite differing pit strategy, he's still got a top 10 out of this race here tonight. Great run for him.
If you're one of these drivers that finishes right outside the top 10, nothing to hang your head over tonight. It was an incredibly competitive field. So we're going to start off with our first driver finishing outside of the top 10. That's Chad Oxidine. Had some issues in the pit lane, still able to walk away with that 11th place finish. Only 14 seconds back of race leader and race winner Daniel Folkingham. Bobby Cheney will be right behind him. And when I say right behind him, it's a few seconds back, but it's still going to be a 12th place finish for the 24 car. Sheldon Lockey will be next in the 13th position, followed by Daytona winner Cody Miller. So not quite the pace we see at Daytona, but it's still going to be a decent point stay. And then Jared Darling, after that very, very heavy contact out off of turn 2 relatively early into the running, he will round out the top 10 26 seconds back of Daniel Folkingham.
The 21 car going to finish 16th position this evening. Taylor Frey. It's a name we didn't say very often, but comes in just ahead of Elijah Drugracia, who was involved in an incident very early on in this race, along with Sean Williams, one of the more recent winners here at Michigan in the NORC iRacing Series. A very surprise win for him as well. Spencer Ray finishes 19th position, and Scott Shire rounds out the top 20.
Now we get back to the last car on the lead lap in Cole Freilich, who is desperately looking for a little bit of fortune to come his way after what has been a lackluster start to the season. Strong run at Kansas, still looking for his first top 10 of the season. Maybe it'll come next week at North Wilkesboro. Zach Lindgren, who turned some heads last week at Kansas with a very strong run, was caught up in that opening lap skirmish, sustained a little bit of right side damage. He was the first car and only car one lap down in 22nd. And Howie Briss, remember, he got into it with, I believe that was Hayes Booth early in this race in 3 and 4, and suffered some significant damage on the right side and rear of that car. First car 2 laps down, 23rd. Dylan Patterson looked as though he was going to have a top 10 day after the spin in the pit lane. That put him behind the 8 ball. He was 24th. And Tom Mercier, who was involved in our final caution of the race, first car 3 laps down in 25th.
We'll look at a few more drivers who faced their fair share of struggles tonight, such as Patrick Colby, finishes 3 laps down in the 28th position tonight. Sean Powell, despite his early running near the front of the field, he's going to come away 27 laps down in the 27th position, funny enough. Matt Hummel will be 28th, 40 laps down. And then Aiden Kirker, after some pretty strong running as well, he'll finish 55 laps down, 29th position. And then rounding out the top 30 after a quite memorable yeehaw, which gives tribute to some of America's best manufacturers, Ford and Chevrolet, of course. Centered out of Michigan, he'll finish 30th, 65 laps down.
Last 4 drivers in the field this evening. Michael Keithley, 75 laps down in 31st. Hayes Booth, 78 laps down in 32nd. Dylan Hervatten in the 33rd spot, 86 laps behind the race winner. And unfortunately, Josh Robin, just 2 laps complete this evening, 98 laps down to race winner Daniel Folkingham, 34th position, dead last in the field. It was a tough one for plenty of drivers throughout the field, but it was nothing but checkered flag ahead of the 20 car of Daniel Folkingham for the second week in a row. And guys, suddenly we've got to stay on watch for Daniel Folkingham. This is, I mean, he's been a strong driver for a long time, but this is his first big breakaway. Now, I will play devil's advocate here, and I will maybe come back off of that Daniel Folkingham train a little bit. There have been a lot of departures in the last little while, just guys moving up in the world, guys that maybe didn't return to season 13. Quite simply, when it comes down to guys like Femi Olot, Bobby Zelensky, Marcus Richardson even of old, a lot of those drivers have new obligations, like Daniel said, but he also said that, well, this is quite simply his time to shine, and he is shining.
Yeah, and I agree with that sentiment there, but I do want to put a little bit more emphasis on some of the competitors who are in this series as well, who have shown strong results, specifically in the last 2 races, because Daytona is such a wild card. I mean, not only in the Daytona 500, but in the season opening race at Daytona, we saw so many front-running names over the last 2 weeks who were caught up in crashes at the Daytona race that it kind of makes sense to see some of these drivers running up front. Daniel Folkingham is in that category as well. He came back to salvage a top 10 finish at Daytona, but that was after he got turned from the race lead. But you look at the likes of Zoltan Herczeg, tonight's runner-up. You also got David Schutt, who came back from some misfortune at Daytona with back-to-back front-running finishes at Kansas and Michigan. Although Daniel Folkingham appears to have this series at a bit of a stranglehold right now, there are some other names that we're going to be mentioning in the weeks to come who I think are going to contend for an opportunity to overtake him in the championship standings. And I'm sure that Folkingham may be on a similar path and trajectory as a number of the names you just mentioned there, Andrew. He too appears to have what it takes, at least at this point, to follow in the footsteps of some of those competitors and perhaps move on to bigger and better things on the platform. But this is a very significant prize and element of pride that NORC has to offer because of some of the names who are on the stat sheet that we take into us here with these broadcasts. And Falkingham may very well be in his own right on a similar pathway, especially if these last two races are setting the stage for what 2021 is going to look like.
And if Falkingham is a driver that's looking to make that step up at some point in time, the experience that he gets here in the NORC iRacing Series could pay off a massive amount if he looks to make that pro run. The final step before getting up to the NASCAR Coca-Cola iRacing Series utilizes a series with the NASCAR Xfinity Series B Series car, so it could definitely be something that could play into his favor against a field that is incredibly competitive. Yeah, all around, we were treated to quite the show, 3 consecutive weeks in a row, and we're going to get something quite unique next week when we visit our first short track, and it's not just a short track. It's going to be, of course, the historic North Wilkesboro Speedway. It could be quite interesting because you can get multiple lanes to work there at that short racetrack in North Carolina. However, it could also be a race that could be quite chaotic. I've been in league races myself where it's been quite chaotic, but it can also be a lot of fun. We'll just have to see how things go next week.
That does conclude our coverage then of the NORC iRacing Series at Michigan. Before we go, of course, a big shout out, a big thank you to our broadcast partners who are Tucson Sound Art, Your Picture, Your Music. Use promo code PitStopTV for 10% off of your order today. And again, as I always say, this is a product I highly recommend, and it's certainly a product that I will forever stand behind. I've got one on my wall. It looks great. It sounds great too. And it's something you might not think of as needing at first, but once you learn about the product, once you hear about the product a little bit, it's something you definitely will want. They've got several different sizing options on their website. Again, TucsonSoundArt.com, where you can find all of your sound art information and needs. Race pace setups. That Discord link bottom right will help you pick up pace in your next iRacing Road Series event. Mostly GT3 stuff, a little bit of Porsche Cup car stuff going on over there, and they can help with more than just that upon special requests. They do ask for donations to help along with, just compensating for their time, because a lot of time does go into picking up pace on the iRacing.com sim, but I highly recommend going to Race Pace to do it. And again, if you're in the need in the market for GT3 setups, these are the guys to go to. Permanent Makeup and Cryo in Maine, boy, they're going to have to try to find a way to get on that 20 car, aren't they? A home state winner these last couple of weeks. And Permanent Makeup in Maine is standing by us, and maybe even soon Daniel Falkingham every step of the way. And a big shout out just always to these guys, longtime supporters of the channel. I will say, best of, I guess, enjoy the vacation that Ashley Bollier, the owner of Permanent Makeup and Cryo, is finally getting this week. They're out in Hawaii enjoying the beautiful sunshine while some of the country is still trying to thaw out, and I think Maine is included in that right now. Go to permanentmakeupinmaine.com for more information about what they can do for you. And of course, Whiplash Media, the official graphic and camera provider of Pit Stop TV. We at Pit Stop TV, thank you for tuning in and joining us for tonight's action. We hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. The channel stays active weekly, and you can catch more racing throughout the coming days. For the first time since last summer, the IORL IndyCar Series is back, opening Season 12 with new tire compounds and temporary walls at the Long Beach Street Course Circuit. It's going to be a lot of fun. I've never broadcasted anything from Long Beach. As somebody who has spent most of my life, the largest part of my life in the state of California, no longer in California, but lived in California for a long time, that's going to be super cool to be broadcasting, virtually at least, from the Long Beach Street Circuit. That's going to be really, really cool. I'm very happy to have Eric alongside of me for that one tomorrow evening. Friday, we keep up to date on the LTAC Cup Series at the Texas Motor Speedway, and Sunday we get jumpy one more time with Cross Series League Racing as they take the Rallycross cars to Phoenix Sunday evening. You won't want to miss either one of those shows. Texas can be very interesting with those Cup cars, and Phoenix, of course, with Rallycross cars is always interesting. NORC is, of course, back next week, throwing things back a bit to the North Wilkesboro Speedway in the great state of North Carolina. Make sure to follow us on Facebook at www.facebook.com/PitStopTV, on Twitter at PitStopTV_, on Twitch at www.twitch.tv/Pit_Stop_TV, and on YouTube at let's back up. www.youtube.com, there we go, /T/pitstoptv1. And newly added to the Pit Stop TV stable as well is an Instagram account that you can follow along with us. Emerson Arden was hard at work all evening long on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram now with our social media updates this evening. A lot of great stuff going on over at pit_stop_TV, much like our Twitch account. For all of Pit Stop TV, then, Eric Brennan and Trey Shuttlesworth alongside me on the mic this evening, as well as the aforementioned Emerson Arden on social media coverage. My name is Andrew Cardinale IV. It's been a wonderful time this evening from the virtual Michigan International Speedway, but we bid you all farewell, and we will see you tomorrow evening with IORL from Long Beach. Till then, have a wonderful time, have a wonderful evening, and if you weren't planning on it, make sure to go check out the eNASCAR iRacing Coca-Cola Series. I believe they're at Richmond this evening, and you can see former NORC stars like Bobby Zielinski and Femi Olot and previous NORC Michigan winner Logan Clampett go at it this evening. It's going to be a lot of fun. Make sure to tune in over there on iRacing's social media.